Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live hangout with Gate World here. We're talking Stargate on a Friday afternoon. Glad to see you all, everybody in the chat. I'm very excited about today's guest. It's a longtime friend, not supposed to say old friend, longtime friend. Jenny Stiven is here. Normally, you know Jenny Stiven from Dial the Gate. This might be the first time that I've had you on Gate World proper, other than in like a
I
clip.
think so. Yeah, I think so.
So welcome.
No, thank you so much for having me.
I apologize in advance to everybody for my voice. I'm fighting another cold. So I'm going to do my best and power through this conversation because I've been looking forward to it for so long. Jenny is an industry insider who's been connected over the years with MGM, with Sony, with other bits and pieces servicing the Stargate franchise in ways that we'll talk about. I'm glad to have you here with us, and I want to talk about first, before we get into all of that, before we get into the work that you've done around Stargate and other sci-fi and fantasy projects, other shows and films that we know and love. Jenny, I want to start with your fandom. This is a way for bringing on new guests and showing everyone, right, reintroducing you to the Gate World audience, but also proving to everyone that you are one of us, and you are.
Oh, thanks.
So your Stargate
Yeah.
cred. You and I met, I want to say 2004.
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
right?
Yeah, that is right. We
So
met
it's been over 20
online
years.
online on 2004. I started watching Stargate actually on Showtime right from the beginning, from 97, because I had gone to the movie with my dad. I loved the movie.
Yeah.
I heard about from friends because I was working in the industry in 97 that it was going to be a series. And I was hooked right away. I mean, obviously it was great for all the reasons that we love Stargate. And then at that time, I was working at an agency on the digital production side. And in 2001, I started working with Fox and MGM on digital. So I I was very lucky in 2002 when it moved off of Showtime, or I guess that was 2001, give or take, from a production side, that Fox and MGM asked me to work on the digital campaign. And it was one of those where we were in a meeting and nobody knew Stargate, and I was very bottom of the totem pole at that point in the studio system. Digital was not anybody's favorite. We were kind of pushing our way in, and I was still on the agency side, and everybody was asked, does anybody know what this show is? Does anybody care? And I care. I love it. I'll do it. So I was given Stargate, which was great. And I got to work on it all the way through cancellation. So I got to work with MGM
Wow.
and Fox all the way through it and I obviously was moving my way up on the studio side. I went from agency to studio side. And then I was asked to come back in 2015 to work on it from just the MGM side, to try to do fandom approach. And that's when we built Stargate Command. We built the platform. We did the not so popular web series, and tried to develop, and we were actually in the process of developing a Jaffa series with Chris Judge
Right.
when COVID hit and Amazon was going to get, MGM was going to get bought. So that is a very shortened
That's the
accordion version of my
condensed version.
fandom.
Yeah. Very condensed.
Yes.
A lot of folks will know, of course, Stargate Command, which launched in 2017 and had Stargate Origins as its sort of centerpiece project.
Yeah. It
But
was,
yeah, all the way back.
I know it wasn't very well received. The plans were, of course, because at the beginning we only had access and the rights for the Stargate Command distribution for the movie. So all we could do was play off the movie. And the plan was that in 2018, 2019, I got the rights to the TV series. And that's when we brought in Brad, and we were moving and shaking. But it
Yeah.
all went COVID and the purchase. So
There was more in the works, and it was some exciting stuff. We did a little bit
it
of
was.
recording at the time on what Chris was working on
Yeah,
around
it was pretty
a
cool.
Free Jaffa origin story.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. But all of the things that I got to do during the three series. So I came in on the fourth season, actually in the pre-production of the fifth season, at the end of production on the fourth season, and worked on both the production and the home entertainment side at that point with DVDs. So I got to do a lot of DVD featurettes, and that's how I got to know you guys, because a lot of what they were asking of me is, what do the fans want? Because that was when we started to pay better attention, as we should have, to the fandom and to the audience. And that's when I got to know you and David. And it's when I got to know some of my best friends that are still around, and we do a lot of things together because I got to know them through the original Gate World forums is how I got
Yeah.
to know them. So it was really fun for those 10, 12 years that I got to work more and more. We did games, we did digital campaigns, we did Comic Cons. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've had a blast over the years.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to have been included in all of it. I got to go earbuds just to try and eliminate any kind of an echo. Sometimes my
Okay.
mic is good at isolating, and it's not.
Hopefully it's not mine. I mean, I
No,
got a
no,
new
it's
one,
not
so
you.
hopefully it's
It's not
better.
you. It's my setup here. Something
Okay.
breaks every time I stream. I figure something new out, and something else breaks. So
I think that
we're
that
chasing
is
the
the
perfect stream.
technology. Yeah. It's just the technology Murphy's Law, basically.
But we can get into this later, but that's a really interesting thing that I think a lot of folks don't understand, and I certainly didn't understand it for a while, is that the rights for the show and the rights for the film are separate, and they're often held together. We often think
Yeah.
about MGM has basically owns the Stargate franchise, has the rights to all
Right.
that. Uh,
Right.
and yeah, we can get into that a little bit later. There's you must have seen the Dean Devlin news story that posted last
Yes.
week
Yeah. And it's complicated. I mean, it
around
always has been
rights. Yeah.
complicated. Yeah, I mean, it is Lionsgate. It's never been easy. Not that they weren't helpful. I mean, honestly, they were great for me when I wanted to do work, but the the two camps from a production standpoint were very disparate for a very long time. And one of the things that I was excited about in 2019, 2018 is we actually were finally getting those to work together. And that didn't happen. It is not just about getting your production and creative camps to be on the same page. Picture that your creatives and those the directors, the writers that are at the peak of the pyramid,
Yeah.
and then underneath that are the multitude of layers of execs and studio and their own production companies who own different things. Dean Devlin's got his own production company. Um, Roland had his own production company. So, and Brad had his own. And it is very hard to get all of those. Then add the studios, then add distribution. And when you get into international distribution, um, the way MGM had negotiated a lot of those contracts was really smart. But when you get to try to get a hub together, to put that together, to combine, it was almost impossible.
Mm, mm. Okay, I have more questions about rights, but first let's stick to the script. I want to talk about your fandom first.
Yeah, you bet.
You came into Stargate early and had the opportunity to work on the franchise early. But
Yeah.
what is it about Stargate that you found that you loved? How did Stargate get its hooks in you?
Well, I think it's a lot of it is the same that just about every fan says, but there was a perfect storm. I mean, because I can't help myself. I look at it from a production and marketing side.
Yeah.
There was a perfect storm of humor, sci-fi that had hope to it, redemption to it, and action adventure. And that particular combination, and then add the fact that Amanda was a lead, for me, that was huge. So it really captured for me as a sci-fi fan, and not just a sci-fi fan, I was a huge geek across the board. So it was comics, books, films, television. I was a nerd. And my dad got me hooked on sci-fi super, super early on when I was a little kid. And this was a bit of that perfect storm combination of something I could watch with my dad, something that had humor, which I've always been attracted to. I love dystopian sci-fi, but my default is always going to be something that has hope, redemption, and humor.
Hmm.
And then added had great fun writing, action adventure, and it had a woman that was part of the lead. I mean, honestly, genuinely, there wasn't anything about it I didn't like.
I'm curious now, what was your go-to sci-fi as a child?
Well, Star Wars, because I was 11. So, I'm old. So I was 11 when it came out, the very New Hope, original Star Wars. And we, at the time, there was an old Cinerama Dome where I lived in Northern California in Marin County. And my dad took me to see it. And we got out, went around, stood back in line. We saw it 6 times that weekend. We just kept doing it round and round. But I also was a huge comic book geek. So I was very much into Flash. I was very much into Wonder Woman. Of course, I was watching Wonder Woman. The old Battlestar Galactica I loved. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I literally watched everything. And with my dad, especially, we watched all of the goofy sci-fi of the late 70s and 80s together. So I was totally into it. And it's comics, it was a mix of, funnily enough, I wasn't into X-Men. I don't know why, but I was huge Fantastic Four specific. And then Flash and Green Lantern were my favorite, and Wonder Woman. So
Nice. That's cool.
it was eclectic.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny that you say you were 11 because there's something about middle school. I think that's the
Hmm.
perfect age when we feel like,
Yep.
okay, I'm into this. This is mine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go all the way into this world. I was
You're
11
old
when The
enough.
Next Generation premiered.
Exactly. And you're old enough to get it. So I mean, there were multiple levels. I was just watching again, rewatching and I highly recommend this for everybody on Disney Plus. If you've got it, the ILM documentary is fascinating. And it's a really good behind the scenes about what was happening in the industry at the time, how much George Lucas really forged a new path. And they do give credit to his wife as an editor and to the women that were behind the scenes that that was not happening in sci-fi at all. And one of the things that you really, as a middle school, you kind of get the double meaning of things. Like you can get enough of it and still enjoy it like a kid. So it was a good combo.
Yeah, yeah, and I still to this day. I mean, Stargate SG-1 is probably my favorite show of all time. It's probably deep
Yeah,
enough roots,
mine.
but
Yep.
because I got into it when I was 11 and I watched TNG through middle school and high school,
Oh yeah.
that's always my default when people say what's your favorite, favorite show of all time. It's always TNG.
And see, that's funny because so dad and I watched the original. And so I was
Yeah.
6, 5. So we were watching the original. I was 6, but we watched reruns when I was older. And so I was very much into the original, especially because it was goofy. I mean, again, I think that's one of the reasons why I like Stargate is that there's a goofiness to it sometimes, and that appeals to me personally and my personality. Like I said, I love a dystopian sci-fi, but
Yeah.
I can't maintain that. I can appreciate it, I can respect it, I can enjoy it, but I can't watch it nonstop. I can watch Stargate. I can watch and see. I like Deep Space Nine. I like Farscape. So you can see like Next Generation didn't really appeal to me. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I was much more. I loved Deep Space Nine. I loved Farscape. You can kind of see there's a theme to the ship that. Oh, sorry,
That's
stuff
okay.
that I love. For
Yeah,
those of
there's
you that
that
don't
edge
know
to it.
me, I'm a sailor's daughter and I swear a lot. So sorry. I try to be good. Sorry about the dog in the background too.
Nope, dog is welcome on the stream. We are just hanging out and talking
Love it.
Stargate. Yeah, I was a little kid when I was watching the original series of Star Trek in reruns, and I get that vibe, right? And I couldn't have told you when I was 6 years old
Right.
that I liked it because it was goofy, because it was
Yeah.
silly, because the
Yeah.
the the trio, the Trinity, were teasing each other.
Right. Right.
I couldn't have articulated that, but yeah, that was my childhood. When you were a teenager, I was a little kid watching
Yep.
Buck Rogers and
Oh
the
my God. I
original
loved
Battlestar
Buck Rogers. I
Galactica
mean, come on.
and Knight
Buck
Rider.
Rogers. Buck Rogers was awesome. And
It was
again,
awesome. There
it's
was a
what we had.
Hawkman.
I mean, come on. And it was what we had too. So I have to say, I absolutely adored Battlestar Galactica. That was the reboot. I still adore it.
Yeah.
But when you look back in the late 70s and 80s, that was also what production was. That's what we had. So the reason in retrospect it's a bit goofy is because that's what we had for visual effects because they were all practical effects. So it comes across as a bit dorky, but the reason it is because at the time I'm watching it thinking, oh, that's so cool. He had a laser gun, the laser gun, I don't even remember the practical effects that they used for it. And you look back on it now and you laugh, but at the time when I was a kid and then even an early teenager, I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, now I'm thinking about Buck Rogers and
I know,
coming of
I
age
know.
watching Wilma Deering on screen. Oh boy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, come on. Jill Gerard was hot.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
both were.
you look at him now in helmet hair and you're like, oh God, why
Was
did
I
they?
mean, my favorite character before Hawkman came on was Tweaky as a
Oh
little
God,
kid.
okay. And seriously, this stuff, I mean, you go back now and you look at it, there is a Mystery Science Theater 3000 goofiness
When
to
you
it.
rewatch it.
Right, exactly. I mean, you can't help yourself. But it is fun to rewatch what was in your, I mean, think about our kids, right? They're going to go back and look at some of the things that they've watched growing up. For my son is 24, and some of the things that he watched that he loved on Disney Channel or
Yep.
anything else. I mean, some of it's kind of dorky, and that's okay. That's part of the fun, is going back and looking at what you grew up with and how you got to where you got to and what you like now.
Yeah, for sure. And I wasn't as a kid. I was not watching dystopian stuff. I was not watching,
Oh,
the original
no.
Westworld movie.
No, 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 no. I mean, well, okay, I hate to say it. My mom didn't know, but my dad, I did watch the original Westworld movie. There were things that my dad would take me to. He was like a huge Yul Brynner fan. The
Nice.
whole reason I'm in this industry is because my dad was a huge entertainment film buff and he loved it. And so we watched everything. And he definitely stuck me into things I probably shouldn't have been watching at 10 and 11 years old. But yeah, that what we watched more of was Buck Rogers and all the cool stuff.
Okay, I'm about to ask you if you have favorite SG1 character and episode, but first, Ocean Stars would like to know, where can I buy the T-shirt that Jenny is wearing? Not your actual T-shirt, but maybe there's a
Oh,
website.
you know what? It was so funny. I was putting this on and I forgot. I think I got this from David on his Dial the Gate store. I think. I can't remember. A lot of my Stargate shirts come from MGM
Yeah.
in the old days and Fox. So I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure this was from that. I'll have to ask.
Okay. You can go look it up, dialthegate.com. There's a store with lots of T-shirts. Go see if that design's on it.
I think this was from that. I can't remember.
That's where
I was
my
thinking about that when I put it on, that I couldn't remember where I got it from. So,
that's where my Shellkek Nimron shirt is from, which I love.
oh,
And I wore it to GateCon, and Simone Bailey spotted it immediately and said she wanted one. I think David got her one.
I love it. I've got one of her paintings back here.
Oh,
I
nice.
don't know where I hung it, but yeah.
Okay, so Stargate SG-1. What do you love about the show? What's the standout episode? Or what do you
Well,
what
it's
do you
funny
what do you
because
go back
that's
to watch
changed. Yeah, okay,
when
so
you want a
that's
little comfort
changed. Yeah,
sci-fi?
I mean, it's in the original rotation, I would always love anything that Amanda was focused on. I mean, not emancipation type ones, but other ones later. Like
Other
I
Carter
loved,
stories?
well, I loved season 7, I'll be honest. I loved a lot of her story arc in season 7. And
Okay.
so in the first go around, that was my favorite. That I know it wasn't a lot of people's, that was a go-to for me. Then I have to admit, and I know there's going to be in the comments or a collective gasp. Um, I loved Vala and season 9 and 10. I
Okay.
loved the Ori story arc. I know I get into this with you guys all the time about all the reasons. I totally get every single solitary fan that is going, oh, is groaning right now. I get it. I hear you from a production marketing
I liked it.
standpoint. Fully understand why people didn't like it. But as a fan, Vala appealed to me a lot, and Ben Browder, I thought Kim Mitchell's character, I thought that was a great character. I wish we had gotten to do more. And part of the
Yeah.
reason I loved it, and see again, different, like as a fan watching Amanda, that was one arc that I loved. And I loved her on Atlantis as well. Um, I got to talk to Rob Cooper a lot. That was when I was on the set a lot, because by that time I had been promoted enough that I got to go to the set. So seasons 7 through 10 of SG1 and all of Atlantis and Universe, I got to be much more on the set and talking to Rob Cooper about the arc of truth, about seasons 9, about his reasoning, kind of gave it more depth for me. And so that's why I like those now. Those are I will actually go back and watch from end of season 7 through 10 as
Yeah.
my go-to. And then I love Atlantis. I will rewatch all 5 seasons all the time. So I love Atlantis.
Yeah. That's if there's something that changes the way that you appreciate a show when you get to meet the folks who are making it.
Yep.
I was one of the crew that when they brought in Ben and Claudia, I was a huge Farscape fan, so I was default
Me too.
just
Yep.
over the moon having them involved in Stargate.
Yeah.
And then Claudia got to play such a different character.
Yeah.
And Vala's fun. I like a lot of what they did with the character. Not my favorite cup of tea, but for folks, again, I say this all the time. I say it to David all the time. David hasn't watched Farscape yet. If you're not
Wait,
sold
what?
on Vala, if you're not in love with Vala and you're not in love with Claudia Black, please go and spend some time watching Farscape. She's
David hasn't seen
astonishing.
Farscape?
No, he's got it in his back pocket, he says. He's going to
Oh
save
my
it for a
gosh.
rainy day.
I'm
And it's
totally
now 20
texting
years
him and
later.
telling him.
So we're watching it with the kids right now. We're in early season 4 with the kids right
Are
now.
you?
And
Oh, okay.
Claudia is just astonishing. She is
I'm just about
so
ready to
good.
do a rewatch. I'm almost there.
Yeah.
Because I just did a rewatch before we moved to our new place. So I'm almost ready to start a new one again. I am going to give him so much
Yeah,
credit.
give him crap.
I thought he'd watched it.
And he's watched bits and pieces. When they were coming on the show, I think I gave him a watch list of maybe
Oh,
3
of
episodes so that
episodes.
he could go and interview Ben competently and talk about John Crichton.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
seen bits and pieces of it, I think, many, many years ago.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, John and Aaron, one of the greatest love stories in all of science fiction. Come on.
Oh, I know.
And
It
yeah, I
is
agree
fantastic.
with Cam Mitchell. He needed a little bit more time to cook, I think, to
Yeah, and
another
same with
season or 2.
Vala. Rob had a lot more plans for Vala, and they kind of got derailed where I think it would have been much deeper, and I think fans would have appreciated her character more. I think Claudia would have really dug her teeth into it. It would have been meatier for her.
Yeah.
If they'd gotten to do more. I mean, Arc of Truth was supposed to do a little bit more of that, and we just didn't get to because it had to tie up a lot of loose ends.
Yeah.
And Fox wasn't willing to give more money, unfortunately, to that because I think we originally we wanted a trilogy, if I'm thinking back rightly. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. But there was a lot of planning to do much more in depth on the Ori arc. I mean, as you can tell, it kind of dropped off a cliff, and that wasn't the plan originally at all. So, which is a bummer.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously Sam Carter would be your favorite character. Maybe Vala's competing there towards the end of the series. Yeah, season 7,
Yeah.
I think about episodes like Grace, which I just recently
Yeah.
rewatched.
Yeah.
That's
They're
easy to go
just
to when you're just
easy.
in a Sam mood.
Yeah. And I mean, look, obviously David Hewlett and Chris, because also I got to know them, especially Chris, our favorite characters unequivocally. But for why I go back and watch it, it would be Sam Carter and Vala and then Chris, honestly. Because I do love that he got to write 2 episodes, and I love his episodes. And I love the depth that he got to put into it, especially with the Tritonin and that arc. Yeah, I love his too.
Yeah. Okay, Atlantis then. Atlantis kicks off in 2004, the
Yeah,
start
David.
of
David's my
SG1's
favorite. I mean, Rodney's
8th
my favorite
season.
character.
Rodney, hands down.
Hands down, always was. Joe did a great job, and I loved his character. I thought he did a phenomenal job with his story arc, and I think they could have done even more for sure. And Jason's, they had plans to have some really good, more in depth, but I think David grew Rodney's story arc just also because of knowing what he put into it behind the scenes. And coming from SG1, taking that character, making it work into Atlantis was brilliant. I thought it was a fan favorite without being fan service in a storyline.
Yeah.
And that was a great character arc. And
After
everything
48
that,
hours, it would have been a lot rougher if we had not seen at least
yeah,
him turn around and start going the other direction
yes,
toward redemption
yes,
in the episode
yes.
Redemption.
But he does. And so therefore you can accept that he's going to be this character, or at least most fans were open to the storyline. I just think so much of what you see in his arc, especially with his friendship with Carson, and just the entire arc is, I think, brilliantly done. I think there were very few stumbles in there. I think that there could have been, obviously, the fifth season ends abruptly and was not supposed to. We did in 2019, there weren't, unfortunately, there weren't a lot of fans that got to see it because I wasn't allowed to stream it. But in 2019, we did a reading of the movie that Joe had written, and he wrote a specific several scenes of Elizabeth's
Oh
character,
yeah.
Joe's character, David's character. We actually got people to come in and read for it. And it you could see where it was going to go. And I think that's one of the most tragic, even more so than SG1. I would have loved to have seen Vala and Cam Mitchell's, especially Vala and Daniel, and see where that went, et cetera, et cetera. But Atlantis being cut off, to me, is even more tragic than Universe being cut off. Um,
Really?
well, because, man, I loved Universe. I loved where it was going to go, and I loved what it was going to do, but it was, to some degree, it was an experiment. So I
Sure.
wasn't shocked when it got canceled. I was really disappointed, but I wasn't devastated. I was devastated with it. I'm in the airport on my way to go be on set
Yeah.
for Atlantis and Universe, and I get the call that it's been canceled. And literally I'm saying, well, do I get on the plane? Do I go anyway? And
Atlantis, you mean?
international, yeah. And it was, it was awful. And all of the shenanigans and everything that was going on, Fox could have done the movie. There were a lot of legitimate reasons why it was decided no, but it was not anything I agreed with. And I spoke up about it, but
Yeah.
I didn't have control. I didn't have money control at all. So even though I could say, look, I can prove that there are fans that are going to come and see this. Joe had Malazzi had every background backup numbers that we could do. Um, we just, and honestly, people on MGM that were, the way it worked was there were producers inside at MGM that worked with Fox, producers inside at Fox that worked with MGM. So I was one of those on the Fox side that worked with MGM. And my colleague on the MGM side was also in favor of it. And
Mm.
we we tried every which way to try to make it work. And it was bad timing for a lot of reasons, unfortunately. Um, a lot of was that this was right when, and people don't know this because, again, this is behind the scenes stuff, is that DVDs had dipped. So physical DVD purchases
Right.
had basically capped out in
And that was
terms
the
of,
Fox connection, right? Fox was
yeah,
involved because they were home media distribution for the shows
exactly.
and the films.
Yep. So we distributed everything post broadcast on the Fox site, and MGM distributed everything. But Fox started taking over even all digital in general because MGM didn't have a digital department at that time. So we were running point on social, et cetera, for everything for broadcast and post broadcast home entertainment distribution. And DVDs, physical DVDs had hit a ceiling basically. And then there was the crash. So, meaning the stock market crash. And that affects your board of directors. I know this all seems super boring to anybody who's a fan, but unfortunately, this trickles down. And what ended up happening was, even though a lot of producers were fighting for this, Fox wasn't going to take the risk at that time because of those factors. And MGM couldn't afford it on their own.
So it wasn't just MGM, it was MGM had partners to sort of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
building up.
And yeah. And it's the decision on Atlantis in and of itself for the cancellation. That's a different ball of wax. That was a lot of different reasons, a lot of different things that came into play there. It was sci-fi, it was MGM, it was Fox. There was just way too many chefs in the kitchen on that one. And unfortunately, it didn't it didn't err on the side of the audience that was there, unfortunately. The movie that we could have done to finish it out, that's what I'm talking about, is that the money was there, but it was very quickly, and this is how it happens during talks that we weren't even in pre-production yet, the money went away. because of what was happening in general in the entertainment industry. So not just DVDs and physical distribution, but what was happening in 2011, 2012, that just, or 2009, whatever it was. It just unfortunately
Yeah.
didn't pan out.
Okay, then Stargate Universe comes along. It gets 2 seasons. What do you love about this show?
I absolutely loved Lou Ferrar's character. It's that was I loved a lot about this.
Yeah.
And you've heard me say this a lot. To me, those first 2 seasons were exposition for what Brad had written, had outlined. And he's talked about this now. I'm not saying anything out of turn. There's an arc that he had that was just fascinating and beautiful and cool and different from the rest of the Stargate universe, and no pun intended. And the first 2 seasons were exposition. It was setting it up.
Just
And
based on the story structure.
that's right. And if it had, I mean, he says this all the time, and I think a lot of fans know and can see this now, that if it had been given just literally one more season, it would have had hooks, and everybody,
Yeah.
non-Stargate fans, would have gotten there. And that's, unfortunately, that's what they needed to see. Is when I say they, decision makers needed to see that it wasn't just the Stargate universe fandom that was watching it. It had to be a concentric circle out. They needed to see more. And that wasn't happening the way they wanted it to, and not what we expected it to. We did expect to get a broader audience from that sci-fi, uh, more darker, loving audience, and we didn't get it. And he had been writing this years before Battlestar. I mean, his ideas for this were years before Battlestar Galactica. He wasn't trying to mimic or cookie cutter a template. This was a natural progression of, let's explore another option in this world, in this world building, that could have happened. And not everything can be action, adventure, humor. There is this other option that could be happening. And he really wanted to explore that. And I think he did a brilliant job of it. And
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that we didn't get to see that third season that I genuinely believe would have been the hook to get us through it. And also there were some growing pains. And nobody gives him, Brad or those guys, any leeway on this, that when you're going to write a third show, and you're writing that third show, when you're writing it while the second show was still on, and you're still having to do things for the first show, which was audio commentary for DVDs, digital was coming in, so you had to redo a lot of things on the first 10 blah blah blah. He
Yep.
didn't even own the first 4 seasons because we had to get that from Showtime, which was a mess. So it was a lot that was going on, and nobody gives Brad credit for taking a couple of episodes to get into the rhythm of what he really wanted and how he wanted to see this be produced. And I was on set the most with Atlantis and Universe, and it was a radically different set, but it was a really happy set. There were, everybody loved it. Everybody that was on set had, well, most everybody had a great time on set. It was not a difficult or dystopian or depressing. It was a really fun set. They saw all the actors that were the core team, saw this as, this is different, let's get into it.
Yeah, I feel like as
Including
a
Robert
viewer,
Carlyle. I mean, all of them were into it.
yeah, I feel like as a viewer that Atlantis as an experiment, Atlantis was almost like, okay, can we do the same kind of show without Richard Dean Anderson,
Yep.
without Michael Shanks, without these core characters that people know and
Yep.
love? And then Universe was, okay, the world is big enough, the universe is big enough. Can we do a different kind of show
Yep.
in this universe?
That's exactly what it was.
And it's right. This is related to what we're going to get into later. Stargate going to streaming, right? Can you take the Stargate world? Is the Stargate world big enough? The universe of storytelling, is it big enough to do something different, to
Yep.
tell a different kind of story in a different kind of way?
That's exactly it. And he had been thinking about that. Brad had been thinking about this for a very long time. It's not like it was, oh, Battlestar Galactica, let's write something like that. Because that's what I hear all the time is, oh, he just wanted sci-fi came to, that wasn't it at all.
Yeah.
There is
Critical
there
Darling.
is Well, there is a thing in the entertainment industry called spontaneous generation, and it is you can I am going to use it for two current movies. Don't want to talk about the movies, but
Okay.
the two Michael Jackson movies. These two Michael Jackson movies, those scripts were written almost within the same time frame by completely different parties who had not talked to each other. They were not represented by the same agents. That happens a lot, and it has to do usually with news, where the world is, what's going on. People that are creative are going to get the same ideas. Someone in Australia could be writing right now the same idea that someone here is writing, or Europe.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately for someone who gets their idea to the studio first, they're great, and the person that doesn't get it, they're SOL, unfortunately. But that is what happened, is that Brad was writing this and had this idea, and then Battlestar Galactica happened. So it wasn't like he was copying. He wanted to do something really different, like you said, and look at the whole world building of Stargate universe and say, "Oh, guys, there's so much more out there than what you've seen so far."
Yeah, and it's not like
Sorry for the dog.
no, it's not like a biopic on the young Michael Jackson is a really out there tough idea.
No,
It
it.
seems
I
like
mean,
there's some things that are just when you have a million creatives around the world working in different projects
yes,
trying to sell stuff all the time.
yep.
There's
You're gonna
ideas or
have the
some
same
ideas are going to hit at
ideas.
the same time.
Exactly. And the same type of ideas. And unfortunately, there is in the entertainment industry also the imitation is the greatest form of flattery. You hear this a lot. And anybody who's a fan of sci-fi knows Expanse comes out, and all of a sudden you see a whole bunch of shows that are like Expanse, Killjoys, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of which were good. I mean, for different reasons, but there is a little bit of that as well. And that was not what was happening here, but I understand why people thought that's what was happening. Hey, hey,
Guys, keep
Kitty.
sharing your questions in the chat, and we'll try and get to questions as we're moving towards our main discussion topic on Stargate, the new Stargate show streaming on Prime Video. Raj Luthro wants to know. Let's see. Raj has a bunch of questions.
Sure.
Uh, but in terms of what we've been talking about so far, the shows being canceled when they were, what do you think they should learn from the previous series to make the new Stargate continuation series successful? Martin Garrow is headlining the new show. What if you were sitting behind Martin's shoulder, whispering in his ear? What lessons do you hope he's learned from Stargate's past?
Well, I'm fairly certain that what he has learned, especially because he started as an associate writer and worked his way up and then became a writer on Atlantis primarily, is that please don't lose the humor. I mean, that would be
Yeah,
the number one thing that I would, and I have said this to Joe and those guys, because Joe Malazzi is part of the writers' room with Martin, is that please don't lose that humor. And please don't
yeah,
lose the found family of the teams, because maybe they'll do something different. Maybe there'll be one lead and they've just got a partner, whatever it is. I don't know, by the way. It is, I just think that the key was always the humor. One of the reasons Universe worked with keeping that was that Eli was the humor. He had, and even Robert Carlyle has a very dry sense of humor, and they kind of finally tapped into that in the second season, where you could see that. So even Universe had the humor from the beginning. So that to me has been the key for all Stargate, whether it was the books, the audio dramas, the series, even the movie. It's James Spader is not known as a comedian, but he and Kurt Russell had fairly interesting banter. And
yeah. There's
that's
some
what
funny beats in that movie.
there's some very funny beats. And the the banter between them is what keeps you going. And one of the things that I think appealed to so many of us is that you hadn't really seen witty banter. Teal'c and RDA in particular, I'm sorry, Chris and RDA in particular, had probably some of the best scenes ever. So did Michael with RDA. You really get going with some wordplay, and Joe Flanagan did a great job of it in Atlantis. There's such a good writing infrastructure to Stargate that is very unique, I think. If you look at the scripts and you look at how they've been developed and how the story arcs were developed, I would also say, please pay attention to the way the story arcs worked for Stargate, not the alien of the week, but the story arcs.
Yeah.
And much like why X-Files, Buffy, and others worked, is that the monster of the week, sure, alien of the week, whatever. But on streaming, you're going to have very limited episodes. So the story arc is what I would hope they really pay attention to. And that is key with the characters and how those characters are written and how they interact. And that goes back to that found family of, you hear them talk about it with Vala's arc, especially, but it is from the very beginning with Teal'c that he's found this new family. And it's literally almost what RDA is saying when in Children of the Gods, when he's saying, you got to come with us. That is in
Yeah.
essence from the very beginning, that is a key theme. And so humor and the found family, those story arcs, I think are what I would pound the drum about.
Yeah, for Teal'c, that's why the end of season 2, when Teal'c decides to leave Stargate Command,
Yeah.
that's why that scene is so impactful. Is because this is his found family, and he's
leaving.
leaving.
Yeah. And you
It,
feel it.
I think the writers on Stargate were so good at, again, because they had 22 episodes a season at the beginning.
Right.
They were so good at leaving loose ends, and some of them they would say, okay, we're going to come back to this, right?
Yeah.
Tanith is a
Yeah.
spy for the Goa'uld in the ranks of the Tok'ra. We're coming back to that.
Yep.
And a lot of the threads were, we might come back to that if we come up with a good story for it. There might
Right.
be another Ashen episode. There might be
Right.
another, a lot of those one-offs, like the Ritu that fans always ask, why didn't we see them
Yeah.
again? It's for
Yeah.
various reasons. Some of them are
Right.
practical production reasons.
Practical effects.
Some of
Yeah.
it is some of the early stuff. I think is Jonathan Glassner left the show after 3 seasons,
Yes.
and Brad wasn't
And
interested
they were
in
his.
some of the
They were,
things,
yeah.
some of the
They were
story
his
elements.
ideas.
Yeah, but
And Rob wasn't going to pick those up. So, it's there you can tell who's writing which story arcs. Once you really, if you're a diehard fan,
yeah,
you start to be able to tell who's writing which story arcs. You can, Joe and Martin probably had the ones that had the most amount of humor. That was their thing. Brad's has pretty in-depth character development and much more witty banter.
Yeah.
Rob's is very storytelling, very world building, and very dry humor. Like some of the most sarcastic humor is Rob's writing, Cooper's writing. So you start to be able to see how they divvied up some of the character arcs and how their writing identifies different stories.
yeah, and the esoteric stuff is Rob's. Most of the
Oh
Ascension
yeah,
and the Ancients
yeah,
is Rob, which I didn't realize until sort of after the shows were over and we started doing all this online coverage more and
yeah,
more, and David started doing interviews every week. I
yeah.
started to realize, oh yeah, you go back and look at the list of core episodes for that story arc, whatever it might be. That's usually one or two writers.
Yeah, Rob was very philosophical,
Yeah.
which was cool. I mean, that was really cool. I mean, one of the best experiences, and I am sure again he doesn't remember because digital was just not, it was bottom of the totem pole in terms of recognition. I was lucky because I had people internally at Fox at MGM who supported me going and doing the things I got to do, and I got to know people. But I was on Arc of Truth on the set, and I got to sit with Rob Cooper in the corner when they were shooting the Adria Vala scene with the Ark. And we were there for like 2 days. I had the most amazing philosophical conversations with him about why he had done this storyline because I loved it. I thought it was cool. And he was he's really deep. And it was really, I loved it. I wish I could have done more digital background on that because I think we could have done some really cool Ori philosophical, spiritual, challenging things with it. But yeah, that wasn't going to happen on the Fox side. That was never going to get approved. But and then with Brad, I would have like the coolest breakdown of story structure and the production of it all. Like he really gets into, okay, this is going to be the culmination, and we're going to do these really cool things. And like talking about the battle that in season end of season 8. That was super cool talking with Brad about that. He was really
Mhm.
into it. And then Joe was always the super fun humor, finding those really vulnerable points in different characters that you can make something out of and make something funny out of.
Mhm. Guys, if you have questions for Jenny, leave them in the chat. It'll be easier for me to spot your question if you tag me at gateworld.net. That'll flag it.
And
Uh,
I'm sorry I'm not looking at them. I could maybe look and
no,
see, but I
I'm
can't.
gonna try
I
and
can't see it.
hit you with a few here as we go. Raj had another one I wanted to follow up on. When the new series is showing, what would you say to fans who might not like an episode or episodes that can negatively impact the future of the new series and the franchise? What do you think? I mean, people are allowed to like what they like. They're allowed to dislike
Yeah.
what they don't like. They're allowed to go on the
Yeah.
internet and complain about it. But what's your advice for as a franchise fan, as for somebody like me, if there's an episode that
Right.
comes along that I think just misses the mark,
Yeah.
what's your advice?
So for those of us that know us and know us well, this is going to be familiar, and I am sure there's going to be some rolling of the eyes because this was my go-to, and it really hasn't changed even as I've done a lot more work between for the past 10 years, which let's just pause a moment that I started doing the Stargate Command 10 years ago.
Hmm.
So the 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 attention that's paid to fandom is much more key than it used to be. There are entire companies now, like a company called Fanthropology, that all they do is
Oh,
look
that's a
at
good name for
fan.
a company.
Isn't that a great name? It's Chris Longfield who's always been on my panels. And there's another one, Meredith Levine, who you've met. They literally went to school to learn about fandom, and they study fandom and they do research about fandom for a specific genre and then for specific shows and movies. And
Mm,
they do this for the studios and for agencies. So, what's different in the past 10 years is that a lot of attention is paid. That doesn't mean that it's going to be fan service. It doesn't mean that they're going to make a decision just based on a wave of good or bad feedback, but it does mean that they pay attention to, is that feedback gaining traction, or is it just, we just didn't like this episode, but.
mm.
So here's my advice. If you don't like an episode, say whatever you need to say. That's one of the things that is the beauty of what we've got with the internet, is that we do get to talk about the things we love. We get to be experts in the things that we love, and we get to talk about them, good, bad, and the ugly. And we should get to do that. Whether it's a one-off, though, is where the difference is.
Yeah.
Give the entire, and let's be honest, guys, it's going to be 8 to 10 episodes. That is the streaming. It doesn't, there is a movement right now internally at the independent studios to go back to 20 episodes, but that's going to happen in linear or cable first, basic cable, before it happens
Okay,
on a lot of streaming.
let's put a pin in that for sure. I want to come back to it.
Yeah.
But keep going with what you're saying.
I think what fans should do, and I will say the same thing I've always said, is be true to your opinion, be honest with your opinion, but also don't put it out on the ledge. Don't make a final black and white decision until you've seen the whole show. That is the same thing I said before with Stargate Command and with Stargate Universe, is that don't make a decision about whether or not you're all in or not based on even the first 4 episodes. Give it a chance to get all the way through, see the story that's being told. One thing that I appreciate is that Martin's out there telling the background and context, which is what we didn't get with Universe. Sidebar
Yeah.
really quickly.
Yeah,
If we had
please.
gotten in the old days, if we had gotten Brad online on Gate World and being able to tell the story, the context of what he was saying, I guarantee you we would have had more audience.
Why
We
they were
didn't
doing what they
have
were
that.
doing. Yeah. There was
Yep,
a
we
decision
did.
made with SGU during pre-production and filming
Yep,
that they were going to be secretive. They were going to be shut
yep.
down.
And
There was very little press coverage.
I had that argument a lot, as you know, and they were not pleasant arguments, and almost lost my job over one of them
Oh,
at, yeah,
I don't
and
think
it
I've heard that
at
story.
MGM, and it was no, it's just that was just cyclical in the business. But the argument that I had, and it was the one I had during Stargate Command as well, that transparency with the fans is crucial. And the one major reason why or second major reason why I love Martin for this is he's transparent with fans.
Yep.
He's got to play the game politically with Amazon and MGM. That's true for anybody. Wherever you guys as fans work in an industry, there's a game that's played politically in your boss's boss, or you yourself if you're a boss. That is just a given. So Martin's going to have to play by the rules with Amazon and MGM internally. MGM is what's called a shingle within Amazon Creative Studios. Amazon Creative Studios is its own vertical within Amazon, the big, huge Amazon. And MGM is what's called a shingle production company within that. So they have their own decision makers. Martin has his own production company. His production company is the one that's doing the work with MGM and Amazon. So he's got two layers that he has to work with.
Yep.
So he's going, and the reason they hired him, and this is where I think the internal discussions and all of the internal shenanigans that have been going on for the past 6 years, 5 years, culminated in our best possible option, because
Absolutely.
it wasn't going to be Brad and Rob and those guys. It just, that was not going to happen. And I get that. I don't agree with it, but I get it. So this is the best possible, honestly, maybe better, because Brad's a consultant, Joe's in the writer's room. So Martin was amazing in making sure that everybody knew that was involved in the universe and the TV universe knew what was going on. That alone is huge, because that means that he's giving respect to and
I
paying
still pinch myself.
homage
I can't
to.
believe, based on where we were a couple of years ago, I can't believe it. I can't believe how
I
lucky we are.
I can't either. I mean, the fact that we went from holy shit, I don't know what's going to happen, but it sounds like what they're developing is not anything we would like in a million years,
Yeah.
to, oh my God, he actually went to Darren and David to make the announcement.
Yeah,
That's
right.
just, it's enormous.
Or,
And it's,
give it to a new creative team who's never touched the franchise before, and all we could kind of do is say, okay,
yeah,
I hope they do it justice. I hope that they
that's
honor
right.
it. I
And
hope
they
it's
could
not
have done
awful.
that. They could have done it. I mean, honestly, that was on the table. And in fact, that was one of the ones that I had heard was farther along on the table. And it was a group that I would have loved. They know
Yeah.
sci-fi very well,
Yeah.
but you know, you still would have been taking a leap of faith. This is a much shorter leap of faith that we're taking with Martin. And what the fans can do to support him is give that feedback of, okay, we're with you. We're behind you. We get it. Thank you for coming to David and Darren, because that is an amount of trust that MGM and Amazon are giving to Martin that makes me feel better in the long
Yeah.
run. And they're reaching out to fans. So, I mean, literally, the social media, the digital teams are reaching out to fans. So they're not ignoring it. They're involving them. They've involved you guys, who are the two leading Stargate fandom experts and Stargate font of wisdom, or font of knowledge, the holocron of knowledge, that it is so far encouraging, and we as fans need to back that up. So that's a huge part of it too. It's
I'm
not
very
just wait
encouraged.
to see the whole thing. It's got to be, hey, positive reinforcement for what's being done. And that, I mean, just a month ago he came back and did another interview with you and released about the production designer, and that was
Yeah.
incredible. So each
And
time he does
I'll
that,
say those two times that we've worked and done a pre-record with Amazon, they've been
yeah,
great.
yes,
They've been great to work with. They've been
and they
really
are trying.
supportive and really
Yep.
open, and yeah,
And they're really, really trying. I think the people, I think the shift in management internally was in our favor, frankly. Um, Unfortunately, the people that were in charge prior, Nick Pepper was in charge of TV, and he was a huge push for this. But there were a lot of people who weren't, and those people are gone. And now there's people who want this to happen. They may not know Stargate, right? But they're willing to go talk to the people who do. know Stargate.
Yeah,
And they're
that's what it
willing to
looks like
hire
when
the
the stars
people that
align.
know Stargate. I mean, that's the part that, I mean, I just heard again through a friend who's doing some other things with Amazon. They asked her, "Hey, do you know Stargate?" And she's like, "No, but I know who does." And, it's just that's what they're doing, is they're not just presuming that some agency that they've always worked with, that worked on Rings of Power, is going to be the one they're going to do. They're not doing that. They're
Yeah,
really doing a good job of being careful at each step of the way, which we as fans need to give positive reinforcement online about.
yeah. And I appreciate your suggestion, and going back to Raj's question, that okay, if an episode comes along that you don't like, if a character comes along who might need some time to grow on you, I I'm going into this as a fan as, let's not be absolutist about everything. Not
Yes.
everything is a burn the house down sort of
Yes.
response.
Yep.
You're allowed to not like, what you don't like, and that's part of fandom. But
Yeah.
not everything is a 10 alarm fire, right?
No, no. And I think we've learned that the hard way through Star Wars fandoms, and working on Star Wars was simultaneously joyous and toxic at the same time. And I don't want to see that happen with Stargate. I have had very, very little, and I talk about this a lot on panels that I'm on about fandoms. I get asked a lot, what do I think is one of the best fandoms? And Stargate is the one I use a lot as a baseline. The amount of toxicity in the Stargate fandom is, it's always going to be there. There's always that. There's always different levels of that in different ways.
Sure.
But it is the least amount that I personally have worked with. And I'm a woman. I am a geek girl who did not get any kind of encouragement in my career at all. I had to work very hard against a lot of shit over my career. And that just doesn't come up a lot in this fandom. There's a lot of acceptance in this fandom, even if it's something you don't agree with in the world of progressive or conservative or whatever. There's a lot of acceptance in this fandom, and you don't see that in a lot of fandoms. And one of the things that I think I would encourage our fandom to continue to do is to leave those at the door and to enjoy this, which is what I see almost all the time with Stargate. I go on and it's still Dragon Con 2 years ago with a bunch of Stargate fans. All we did was have a blast, and all we did was talk about our fandom, what we loved about Stargate, what we loved about sci-fi, what we loved about fantasy, what we were reading. It was amazing, and we were together for 10 days, and that's all we talked about. So that's unusual in a fandom. That is highly unusual in a fandom. And I hope we keep that, and I hope that we can watch this, give Martin grace with this, and give Amazon and MGM grace, because they'll commit within the first couple of episodes to a second season
Yeah.
if we're giving it the right viewership, if we're giving it the right positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
And
That's
I do want to say this though. If you really don't like it, I'm not saying don't say that. I never,
yeah.
ever, ever want to um stifle a fan from not liking something. I mean, if you know me, I'll always have a conversation with you about what you liked or what you didn't like. I'm just looking at the bigger picture of, we want more.
Yeah.
And as as much as you can be giving it grace, if you don't like the episode, it could even be that Martin's telling a story that you're like, oh God, really? I totally get it. Because I mean, look, there's a lot of different stories he could tell. And he has to serve two masters and mistresses right now. He has to serve the core fan base. This is literally what he's been told.
Yeah.
Serve the core fan base, and you need to go out and get more sci-fi fans. Okay, that's tough. And especially on Amazon, that's tough. You don't have a lot. They're trying to build their sci-fi silo. It is it's a grind. So we need to be able to say, hey, we don't love this story arc, but you know what? A for effort. That would be, if you really don't like the story arc and it's not your thing and you don't like the characters,
Yeah.
at least say, hey, you got Martin, A for effort for trying. I'd love to see more.
Yeah. Be constructive in your criticism and be specific. I encourage people
Yeah.
to not go after the entire show or the entire project.
I know it's hard
If
to.
you don't
I
like
know
an
it's
episode or a character or a line of dialogue,
yeah. It's
Yeah, that's
hard. I
tough.
totally get it because I know all of us have conversations. I'm horrible. I'm in digital and I am horrible at my own social, as people who know me. And like, I didn't even remember to put this out there for people to watch. I'm really bad at my own social. But there are so many conversations I have, like Darren with you and David, that I would never put out online because I need to kind of work it through first. And oh man, that story was so stupid. I hated the way that went. I don't do that right away. I kind of give it a beat before I talk about it online, because it's kind of about when you're mad at someone and you write the email and then you have to think a beat or delete it and then
Hmm.
write the email.
Rewrite it.
That would be my recommendation for people, because I think we're all, and I'm part of this, going to be really emotional about this. I think, I mean, existing fans.
Yeah, because it matters to us.
Yeah.
It's I've thought, coming up with ideas for videos or for live stream conversations. I always come back to, we do our top 10 favorite episodes, this, that, or the other thing, best of this. It
Hmm.
would be kind of interesting and kind of fun to just do a live stream on the 10 episodes of Stargate that we hate
Do
and would
it.
like to erase from existence.
Do it, because I think what would be fascinating is, first of all, I don't know that you could get 10 that everybody agrees on,
Yes,
because,
that's
you
true.
know, because I think everybody has different, like, I know a lot of fans who would pick anything from season 9 and 10 and they'd be like, no, I hated that. So I think it'd be fascinating to get 10 that everybody kind of agrees. Ugh, like
Yeah,
I
there's
think
got to
most
be
people can
enough.
agree
There's
emancipation sucked. So I think, like that, I think a lot of us could agree on that. And why? Why do we
the
each
why is
find that?
interesting, yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, I
it's
think
different for each of us.
you
It's
should do it.
There's got to be enough distance, I think, in time from when it was
Oh,
produced,
yeah.
because Gateworld got in trouble back in the day for writing bad reviews of episodes the week that they aired. But you know what? Then we turn around and we
Please.
hear an interview with a Brad or a Joe or somebody else who rips into episodes. Right?
Yeah.
They have episodes that are on their least favorite "Why does this exist"
Oh,
list
they definitely
that
do. And
they
you hear
and
the
they're
audio
not always the
commentaries.
same. They're not always
No,
the same as fans, right?
no, no,
The
not at all.
writers complain about Hathor in season 1, which is
Oh God,
pretty
yeah.
right. It's a product of its
I know.
time and the gendered
Yeah.
stuff, but
Yeah.
it's pretty beloved by fans.
It,
So
it is.
what the
But the
writers don't
writers,
like is different.
because it didn't go the way they wanted it. See, also, if you're a writer in your writer room and you break an episode, meaning you've broken it into its, when Joe talks about breaking an episode, or someone talks about it,
Yeah.
it's breaking it into the different arcs before the breaks, literally. And what they talked about in the writers room and what it ended up being was radically different. And
Hmm.
that happens, it's someone comes up with an idea in the writers room. They've got something visually in their head. The writers start breaking it, and suddenly it is 180 degrees different than what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So it happens.
Spider001 wants to know. I just lost your question. It was about the renewal. You had mentioned, within a couple of episodes, they're going to be looking to see how people are reacting.
Yeah.
I've looked at some other shows, right, that get a second season before the first season is premiered. What
Yeah.
do you want to put odds on that? That they'll at least give the green light for starting to write some scripts for season 2 before season 1 premieres?
I don't know. I mean, if I wasn't so close to it, I'd probably give it a 50-50 chance
Okay.
but because I'm so close to it, I'm going more 60-40, not in favor before of a renewal before season 1, because I think there's a lot of unknowns here for Amazon, not for MGM. MGM knows what its Stargate audience is, knows what the potential audience is. But for Amazon, they're taking a risk with this. Yes, it is an established franchise, and there's a lot to be said for that, but it's an old franchise. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. And you have to hit the right note, as we were just talking about, with those existing fans. So those existing fans go out to get new fans. And so the promotion appeals to fans who've never heard of this before, or thought, I'm not really, why would I be interested in that? Your promotional, I mean, a lot of this is going to hinge on the marketing campaign. And I
Yeah.
think, again, Martin being intricately involved in this is huge, because he knows what the fans need to see. but he knows what existing fans, he does know how to appeal to, having done it with Quantum Leap, whether you liked it or not, he's done it and he's been able to appeal and get them in to that first season. If they can do that, and if Amazon commits to a campaign to do that, then I give us a better chance. So I think I'm going to hold on that until I see what the marketing
Okay.
campaign is.
I found it. Let's give credit to Hannah HK. Your question was right next to Spider, which is why I missaw it. Uh, as season 2 renewal chances before the first season releases. Thanks, Hannah, for your question.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you think that there's an advantage in having the built-in fan base, and that was part of our
Yeah.
argument to
Yeah.
to MGM for so many years was, hey, this fandom is still active. We are ready to go.
Yeah.
We want to support something new, especially if it's in canon.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, right? The other side of that is if you don't deliver for those fans, they are going to be the first ones to,
Yeah.
bring out the torches.
Yeah. And definitely a double-edged sword. And it's a double-edged sword for the new audience as well. For a sci-fi audience that you're trying to go after, it's always, what is the cycle that we're going through in sci-fi? Is it dystopian? Is it hope? Is it redemption?
Yeah.
Is it I mean, there are times I've heard execs say, well, should it just be all animation right now? I mean, like, that's not even a theme, but okay. So it is really dependent on Amazon in its sci-fi silo, looking at what is the zeitgeist right now, what is popular, what is working. I mean, you do have to look at that. And can they appeal to those audiences with their marketing campaign? We are not the boys. We are not invincible. And both of those are ending. So how do you appeal to that audience? You might not.
Mm, yeah.
So do they need to go after, we're not high fantasy, so Rings of Power audience doesn't work. So this is a very different campaign than any of their current sci-fi fantasy silo.
Interesting.
And I'm curious to see how they're going to market it. If I was there and if I was working on it, the strategy that I would recommend would be that you do two different campaigns. And you do one that's for our existing audience that's
Mm.
still out there, because there is a younger group like Nicole and those guys who are millennials and Gen Z, like my son, who are getting into it. Tim's now recommended it to all of his friends that he lives with, and they've all done a rewatch.
Oh yeah,
So,
my son is 20 and he's introduced his roommates
yep,
and they're having
yep,
Stargate watch
exactly.
parties.
Exactly. And my son's 24, and he's been introducing it. So you've got millennials and Gen Z. Oh, you poor thing. Thank you so much for doing this interview, even though you were fighting,
Sorry.
obviously,
I am muting
something,
myself for the stream so they don't hear me cough, but you can still hear me
but
cough.
I'm so sorry. Um, that would be a completely different marketing campaign, obviously.
Yeah.
You should be focusing on certainly getting YouTube personalities, YouTube influencers, TikTok influencers. I would even say Glitch and Twitch influencers that are gamers. You should be looking at that for that audience. And I would do two completely different marketing campaigns.
You got to
Amazon
because I
has,
only understood some of those words.
well, I'm in the middle of doing a new sci-fi fantasy, so and also I love all that stuff, but it is, I think what I'd be fascinating is if they're going to do any supplemental materials, because if they
Hmm.
did, that would be really cool. So if they had, maybe for you and David, if they had um, a short story, or if they have a comic, or if they have something, that would be really cool. MGM has all the rights to that from a consumer product standpoint.
Okay.
That would be really
If
cool.
they did like a prequel comic like
Yeah,
the Kelvin Star Trek movies did,
exactly. Exactly. And I mean, it
catch us
doesn't
up
have
on
to
the universe.
happen. Yeah, and I don't think that they would spend the money. Again, you have to see that there has to be proof of concept in that audience. But if you did it in between season 1 and season 2, that would be
Okay.
really cool. Do a bridge comic, do a prequel to do a concept. Um, if they do something at Comic-Con, that'd be cool. I don't know what their plans are for that. I know that we were going to do a booth and MGM took it, so maybe they'll do something. It'd be really cool.
Okay. I
I don't
figured this
know.
year's too early.
Well, it depends.
Maybe
Um,
2027.
yeah, it depends on where they are. I mean, Martin's speeding through this process, so they could do a panel if they wanted to announce like we did before. or they would do it in 2027. And it doesn't have to be San Diego. I mean, that's the beauty of Comic Cons right now is there are a lot of Fan Expo Comic Cons that would kill to have that kind of exclusive. So again, I would do different
Yeah.
campaigns. You know, there's Fan Expo tends to appeal or VidCon to an entirely different generation who might know about it, but I again, I think what they've got to focus on is their campaigns to now are radically different types of sci-fi fantasy. So you're not going to do a boys campaign for Stargate. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
The very tongue-in-cheek, smart-ass, high velocity, high violence, that's just not Stargate. So Rings of Power, which was high fantasy, appeal to the Tolkien fans, well, that doesn't work either. So what are you going to find that's in that middle ground? And hopefully what they're going to do is they're going to look at what's been popular in their reboots. I'm sorry, in their rewatches. They've got quite a bit of uh 90s and 2000s sci-fi that they are buying and distributing on Amazon. And I'm hoping they're going to
Mm.
look at maybe some fast channels and some other places that are doing really great, I think, really great campaigns for these established franchises.
Hmm.
Like Tubi and Comet, they do some great marketing campaigns.
Yeah. Yeah. Comet does great marketing.
Yeah, they do.
Uh, guys, put your questions in the chat. I want to shift us to start talking about okay the kind of main reason that I wanted to have you on and talk about Stargate going to streaming was just as I told you before we started to sort of help us set our expectations as fans for what it is the show's going to be, how much of it
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be, how much they're spending on it, what that might result
Right.
in, because we're coming from a world where I mean, we've been very excited for months. Okay, Stargate's coming back.
Yeah.
I remember what Stargate was. I have this picture in my head of what it was.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
experience of watching this kind of show with this
Yeah.
kind of vibe to it, this
Right.
style of writing, the humor with 20 episodes a season, or when there were two
Right.
shows on at the same time, 40 episodes a
Yeah.
season.
I mean, we were lucky.
We gotta do some level setting here, I think, as we get closer and closer to the premiere of the show. So you can
Yeah.
help us from an industry standpoint to sort of help us address
Sure.
all the issues around. Okay, Prime Video is not basic cable. It's not Showtime. It's not Sci-Fi
No.
Channel. It's a
No.
different. Even getting past the question of how many episodes are there in a year, which we've said before. Sci-Fi Channel also only does 10 a year now,
Yeah.
or 10
And
every
I
other
don't
year.
know. I do want to say very clearly, I don't
Yeah,
know anything. And if I did, I'd be under NDA for it.
sure.
But the standard right now for any streaming show is 8 to 10 episodes. Some do 12, 13 based on like Ryan Murphy likes to do 13. That's just because he personally likes to do 13 episodes. There's for streaming in general, that is what you can afford per season because the amount of money that's being poured into those episodes is high quality, high production quality. You're not looking at, and let's stop for a moment. So linear is
Yeah,
broadcast. So that would be you know, your half hour comedy shows, it'd be Reba's new show, things like that. That's what's on linear. And that is your half hour to an hour show. It's your Law and Order procedurals, it's your Chicago, all of those, right? Those get usually fairly good episodic budgets, but they're broadcast and so heavily advertised, right? So advertising offsets. Then you've got basic cable, which has subscription and advertising. So again, they get offset by money that's coming in already based on what advertisers have said. Hey, we think your show is going to be great. We're going to pay you $1 million for our 30-second, 30-second ads. That immediately goes back into the show, right? That's how that works.
yeah,
Subscription, SVOD, so that is your Netflix, your Amazon, which also have ad supported as well now. Their channels are part of their subscription. Subscription, they pour an enormous amount of money into their production, as we've all read. You know, Netflix spent 6 billion with a B in 2023, 24. That's an enormous amount of money on production, which is fantastic. And I love that. But that also means you just went from broadcast, still does sometimes 15 to 20 episodes, 10 episodes, basic cable. does, which is, your it doesn't count, but Hulu counts as basic cable. Um, they are still higher than 10 episodes or 10 episodes. Subscription, like Netflix, like Amazon, 8 to 10. That's what they can do. You'll obviously have ones that are an exception to the rule, and a lot of times they'll do 6 now. HBO, as a rule, is doing 6 to 8 episodes,
Mm.
except for some of their like Game of Thrones ones. But that's what they can afford because they're putting all the money into those. And so you can't do 20 of those. I think a lot of fans would say, hey, I could do with a little less VFX and get 20 episodes. But it's
It's a campaign.
also,
It's coming. The more episodes cheaply
yeah,
made is a
it is,
campaign.
and like I said, there is an entire faction right now in the industry that are advocating for that and are starting to do that. I know Robert Rodriguez and some others, they're actually done deals for 20 episodes, which is great. That's fantastic. Part of that is because some of the post-production, and we are so not getting into this conversation, but the post-production, a lot can be done with duplicative VFX that can be done by AI.
Okay.
I'm I'm not
Interesting.
I am not advocating for that either way. I'm just saying that's how you're getting
It's a
20
way
episode
the
arguments.
studios make their math work on the back end.
Exactly. And that's where you've got factions who can say, look, I can do 20 episodes in my production company for you, and then I can sell it to you to distribute. That's going to save Amazon Studios, their creative studios who are producing and distributing often, that saves them money. So a production company like Martin's comes to them and says, I can do this much for you. I can do all the writing. I can do the writer's room, but I need you to do the production. I need you to pay for production and post-production. So I need you to do locations, scenes, uh, sets, all of our pay for all of the building of the set. If it's Martin was talking about, the production designer that he's hired likes to do both. He's won awards for both a combo of visual effect production design and physical production design. He's very, very good at it. And he loves and is dying to do sci-fi fantasy. So you may have a lot of physical production sets built. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to build those. I mean, building those Stargates was $1 million per Stargate.
Wow.
So at the in the
Yeah.
later episodes,
They spent
just
their
for the
money
Stargate,
just for the
just for
gate.
the Stargate.
And for VFX, obviously on a cable budget in 1997, they spent their money on all the
Yep,
stock shots that we saw
yep,
then for 10
yep.
years,
Over
right?
and over and over and over
This
again.
it's the same kawoosh. You've seen
I
this the
know,
straight on,
I
you've
know.
seen the sideways kawoosh,
Yep,
and then when
yep,
we get into HD in season 8, 9, 10, and you're seeing
yep,
that same stock
yep. It's
360p.
bad. It's so bad. It's like you suddenly go to this amazing Blu-ray and then it's pixelated kawoosh and you're like, what just happened there? And look, they still do that. That is when you're talking about stock that was used as VFX, that's what they're talking about with AI. They want to do duplicative of repeat
Yeah.
things. Chances are, however the kawoosh is done on this Stargate, it will be duped, whether it's straight up VFX in Final Cut Pro or whether it's an AI thing. And let's all be honest, tools in Final Cut Pro and Adobe are AI and have been for 25 years. Those duped shots are going to be used. You have to. That's how you save money. You don't want to have to, for 8 episodes, create a brand new kawoosh with the Stargate every single time. I don't know how they're going to do that. Like I said, I'm not involved with it directly, so I'm guessing based on productions I'm involved with right now that are sci-fi.
Patrick Manley, who is a channel member, good to see you, Patrick, says, my daughter asked me how I made sure to schedule my Stargate time back in the Showtime days with 22 episodes a season. I
Yeah.
said commitment.
Yeah. And you know what? That's great, Patrick. I love that. Well, think about what we're doing now. I mean, it's funny that she asked that. I'd be curious, Patrick, how old your daughter is, because when they binge, they're committing to a full
Yeah.
binge, right? So, and again, you know what? This is interesting. I didn't think of this. Did Martin tell you whether or not they're going to be released all at once or weekly?
No, I think when we asked that question, he said it's above his pay grade. It's a decision that hasn't been made yet.
That would be an Amazon decision.
Yeah, but I'm sure I mean, I'm looking at rollouts for shows like Fallout on Prime Video and thinking,
Yeah,
boy, I mean, at
yeah,
least selfishly for my purposes, covering the show.
Yeah,
I want one a week, right? A 2 episode premiere maybe, and then one a week
I
because I
do
want it
too.
to
And I
last
think
for a couple months.
I know that some of the internal conversations at Amazon have leaned more towards that. Certainly Netflix learned the hard way that, with Bridgerton, it learned that that was the better part of Valor. Um, but
Yeah, keep it in the zeitgeist a little longer.
yeah, exactly. And look, water cooler talk is really, really popular and a good thing for marketing for a reason is that when you have those moments, then that helps build to the next one. And you've just told four people who might go check it out now. Um, Committing to a binge is tough. Committing to go check out 1 week, 1 hour is completely different. Um, my personal hope is I do a 2 hour premiere or a two-show premiere and then do one a week. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but the reason I thought of that is that kind of commitment would be a lot easier than a binge commitment. I mean, I think getting somebody who doesn't know Stargate, they would probably just give it that one episode. And, I don't know, I'm sure everybody who's a fan of any show knows this. A lot of times the pilot isn't the best show. And it's because they're trying out a bunch of things in that pilot. Now, I give Martin a lot more credit because he's been there, he's done that. He knows what works and doesn't work for Stargate. So I think that the learning curve is much, much shorter than it would be for somebody else. But he's still doing something new in the sense that he's doing it with Amazon and it's a new group and new production and new execs. So the pilot might not be everything we want it to be because they're finding their footing when they shoot it, if they shoot it in order. So I would say I hope that it's week by week because then we could get people to commit to check it out, as opposed to if they're binging, they might give up after the pilot, which would be a bummer.
Yeah, that's it's fascinating to think about the conversations that have to happen behind the scenes for all these strategies because you could just as easily see somebody fall off. Right, I watched the first one, the second one's not available to me yet.
Yeah,
I
good
didn't it
point.
didn't grab me, so I'm not gonna come back next
I
week and
didn't think
find it
about that.
again.
Yep, that's true. That's right. And but see, that's where marketing has a better opportunity.
Yeah,
If it's a binge cycle, you're given, okay, so you guys have heard me talk about this before, the windowing, right? Which is a huge argument right now in the entertainment industry. And what that means is
windowing.
when it's released on television and or theatrical, when does it go to that next stage? For theatrical, that would be the pay window and then the subscription video free windowing. For TV, it's repeats within its own subscription, in this case, Amazon. If it's CBS, where does it go for syndication on basic cable? And where does it go in the territories internationally? So that is a huge argument right now because theatrical is trying to save itself, which I
Yeah.
get. They want more movies. I understand that. And what they're saying is we need a 45-day window between when something comes out and it goes to pay or goes to subscription or goes to syndication. If it's a binge, that means you only have from the day that it's dropped 45 days or whatever Amazon set internally for it before it goes out of its rotation for feature. That would suck because I would want it to be featured on its Amazon Prime advertising every week for 8 weeks. You're not going to have an 8 week window of marketing if they drop it all at once.
Yeah.
So, in fact, they would probably start in my perfect world, they would start advertising 6 weeks prior to the premiere and they would continue 2 to 4 weeks after the last episode drops.
Yeah.
That gives us 3 months of a solid marketing campaign for the entire show. If they binge drop it, you're going to get maybe 30 days.
It's kind of biggest bang for your buck there, right? So
Yep.
it's the binge model for marketing, I imagine, is not all that dissimilar from theatrical marketing where you're just focused on week one. You're
Yep.
just trying to get because
You're
most
just
movies
trying to
make
get
most of their
people
money in
in.
week one, and
Yep.
that fall off for week two is the biggest
Yep.
metric for okay, do we turn off the money spigot
Yep.
for the marketing?
Yep. That's exactly it. And that commitment for subscription is much smaller, as you would imagine, because Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, all of them, they got so many shows that they need to get out there that they can't be spending like the studios are spending on a theatrical release. They're not going to, I mean, what was just spent on Devil Wears Prada 2 is probably $150 million marketing for one movie.
Yeah.
The shows, now Amazon, we might get a little bit more because they don't have as many shows as Paramount CBS does, as NBC Peacock does. So that's a good thing.
And they're
That
still
means
trying
they're
to build
willing.
that sci-fi silo, which is a good thing, right?
Exactly, exactly. And they really want to build that silo. And with Boys going away, Invincibles is going away. We don't know what's happening with Rings of Power. There's an opportunity here. Fallout, great, but I mean they've got maybe 3 shows, and I don't know how many they've got in the funnel in the pipeline.
They're
That
they're doing a bunch of video game adaptations that are
yeah,
in the pipeline, right? Stuff like God of
which
War from
I
Ron
know.
Moore.
Oh, yeah, I know. So not gonna talk about.
Mass Effect
Imitate.
is Prime. Does Prime have Mass Effect? There's a bunch of those.
There's a bunch of them. Well, again, imitation is the best form of flattery, right? So Borderlands was horrifyingly bad, but Fallout turns out to be great. So what, and Mortal Kombat has another one, Street Fighter, there's a whole bunch coming out. Super Mario Brothers does really well theatrically, regardless if you think it's a good movie. Um, and so there's again this whole, oh, video game adaptations work. It's like it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Where I think it's interesting on Amazon and Netflix is that what they're looking at is, well, we don't have to be the Big Bang. We don't have to do a theatrical and spend $150 million just to try to get that video game audience. They did it right with Fallout. Now, I don't know if they can replicate that, but if they did, I am sure people didn't pay attention to this, but I love this stuff. Fallout did a phenomenal marketing campaign. And they did some really old school stuff that I thought was great, where they just did some old school email marketing. They did some old school, here's a character card, here's a character poster, this is who they are.
Yeah, I
Because
love
they
that stuff.
knew, yeah, because they knew people that played the game would go, oh, I didn't expect that. The live action adaptation, that's cool. So that was great. And then it was appealing because of, again, sorry, this is just a lot of marketing stuff, but I love this stuff.
No, I love it.
They did a great job on the color spectrum against what else was coming out at the same time. So Fallout is about as dystopian as you can get. But what they did was they went counterintuitively to that with bright colors. And in doing that, it caught people's eye, including the people who played the game.
Yeah, and the
So,
music.
and the music, and you've got the production design was phenomenal. So they had really great shit to work with. That, I mean, just the fuselages, the bright aqua blue, just everything that they did worked for marketing to play with in a way that was counter to what everything else was out at the time, including its own shows, including The Boys and Invincible. So, and Invincible, same thing. It's got very, very bright colors, but that is very counterintuitive to the very sarcastic and um, very different writing that has. So it was a great way to play that marketing. I hope they do something really creative and different with Stargate that's counter to what they've done with everything else. Because you could play it like different with different audiences, depending upon what the writing is, depending on what the story is. You could sell it as an action adventure, you could sell it as sci-fi, you could sell it as a rom-com, depending on what they're writing, and you could go to different audiences for that. I think that would be really fun. But again, that's going to depend on how are they releasing it, and what I think the production design is going to be really fun. And
Yeah.
of course, who do they hire as actors? That's going to be a big
Yeah,
deal.
cast is going to be a big deal. Hopefully over the
Yep.
summer we're going to start getting names as
Yeah,
they
I
head
hope
towards
so.
filming in the fall.
Yeah.
Uh, Somebody asked, let's just recap for a second here. Let's take a beat and talk about what we know about the show. Somebody asked earlier in the stream, what do we know? Because there's lots of fake stuff out there. There's lots of,
Yeah.
fake AI
Yeah.
trailers and rumors that are
Yeah.
out there. We know that Martin Garrow is creating the show. He's former writer and producer on Stargate Atlantis. He did Blind Spot. Blind Spot has a great pilot.
Yep.
Um,
It does.
and other things since then. In terms of the story, we don't know much. We know that it's continuing
No.
the existing canon. It's set in the
Yep.
same universe as the
Yep.
previous TV series. Um, I
And it's set
imagine it's
it,
going to be
and
present
Brad
day.
is a consultant, and Joe Malazzi is in the writer's room.
Yeah.
So we know that for sure. And we know that Martin has hired a phenomenal production designer who was
Nathan Crowley.
on Wicked for Good, who was on Christopher Nolan's, won Academy Awards. He won a Saturn Award. You know, these just won an award for Wicked for Good. This is someone who can go really bright colors, can go really dystopian. You could go either way. So this, he gets it and he understands. And from what I've heard, he personally is really excited about this, which is great. And, you know, you guys had great interviews with Martin on that one too. We also know that Martin has hired a writer's room that is young. So this is not going for just the old tired plots, tropes. But Joe Malazzi's there for a very good reason, which is to check in, because as a lot of your fans know, as a showrunner, cannot be in the writer's room every day. He can't do that. He is scouting locations in London. He is attending the casting auditions. He is making sure that the budgets are on time. So he's meeting with every single that the costumes, what do the sketches look for the costumes? Then he's sitting down with Nathan, and he's probably spending the most amount of his time with Nathan. Then
Right
they
now,
both
yeah.
go scout. Yeah. And then they both go scout locations. I mean, I know a lot of it's going to be done, I think, at Pinewood Studios, but in London, but regardless, you're still going to scout locations. So his time can't be spent every day in the writer's room, even though I'm sure, being who he is, he would love to be in the writer's room all the time because he's a great writer and he loves writing. But he has established, as far as I've heard, the story arc. So whatever that story arc is, they are working within something that Martin had
Yeah,
established
he's the
already.
shepherd. It's
He is the
his
shepherd,
vision.
which is good news. And he talked with Brad and he, consulted. So, and he talked to every single actor from SG1 and Atlantis. So they brought David in to talk about at MGM and Amazon to talk about basically what would the fans accept or not accept. There's lots of things that they're doing that are the right thing.
Yeah. Ocean Stars, you've asked this before on previous streams, but let's see if Jenny has a different answer. How do we apply to be extras? If you live in the London
Oh,
area and you want to get your feet onto this set,
sure.
what does that process even look like?
Well, honestly, extras are usually the easiest to be. So there's two ways you can do it that are the most common ways, is that you can find a casting agent in London that hires extras. There's only a couple because I think they're shooting at Pinewood Studios, and London
I'll say
in and of
that's
its
not confirmed yet. I've nagged Martin every now and again. I'll email him and say, "Is it this one? Is it this London studio?" And he's like,
yeah,
maybe.
I don't
We're
have, and
looking. We haven't decided yet."
I don't have confirmation on it either. That's just that is the scuttlebutt in London. So
Okay. Okay.
who know,
Good.
but again, I am not working on it, so I
Proceed.
can't say for sure. It's all educated guessing, right? Um, the the easiest way to do it is one of two ways. So London has quite a few casting agencies, and you can just look them up. And what you do is you look up casting agencies for extras, right? Don't look for character actors because that's a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah.
So for character actors and others, sides are sent out. Sides are sent out by sent out by shows and movies to casting agencies for very specific characters. So you want to make sure that you talk to casting companies that are specifically providing extras. Those, you do not have to be a union member, which is great. It's, something that a lot of pre-union member actors try to do because it helps their own sheet, their own reel. The second way you can do it is you can actually look there are trades that are online that actually list who's looking for looking for extras on a weekly basis. So a lot of times something will come up at the last minute and you don't know, and the production companies will post online in particular. And I don't know what the London ones are. You'd have to look it up. But there's a couple here in LA that do it, and they just post weekly and say, hey, you show up here at noon, you'll get lunch and $150. So those are the best two ways to go after any kind of an extra job. And certainly I would bet they're going to have I mean, unless it's an in a bottle 8 episodes where you only have the team that they're hiring, I would bet they're going to have a lot of extras.
Yeah. Yeah, and Stargate does so much, right? We can all picture scenes from Stargate, the TV series or the film that have lots of extras, right? Where they had to
In the
hire
background. Yeah.
300 people to run down a sand dune.
Right.
And then there's
Exactly.
those episodes that are okay, well, they got 10 people and they're on a
Yeah.
soundstage.
Yeah. And I don't know what the story is. Again, we don't, none of us really know. I mean, except for Martin and those guys. So, it could be that they're going to do a Stargate universe type in a bottle thing. And in a bottle means that it is a contained episode that only has your main characters in one place the whole time. So, I think it is unlikely. I'm guessing it is unlikely they're going to do that because I think that they would want to go broad with the adventure of going through the gate to capture non-Stargate fans to get interested in it.
I would imagine
Um,
they're looking at
I'm
shooting around the world. So if shooting around the world means going through the gate to different planets, you hope that
exactly.
there are lots of people on those planets.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the good news is that that gives opportunity for extras in each of those territories as well,
Yeah.
which is really fun. But extras are like the easiest thing to get into because you literally could either see something on and I'll try to find some, and Darren, I'll try to get those to you that are in London, that are online. They just post every week and say, hey, show up here, you get lunch and $150. And then there's the agencies that you can go to and say, hey, I really want to do this. I'm signing up. Please include me in any announcements for Stargate.
That's good. That's good. That's really helpful and really practical. Thank you.
Sure.
Stargate
I would
is,
I would want to do it.
yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Uh, you were the one originally, I think, on a Dial the Gate stream where we did a State of the Gate with David. You were the first one who put the thought into my head that really what we're talking about with modern streaming series that are 8 to 10 episodes is a revival of the old miniseries format.
Yes.
Right, V was on, and I think NBC when I was a little kid
Yeah.
in the 80s,
Yeah.
and it was wall to wall, right? There was a
Yeah.
new Monday through Friday, it just
Yeah.
stripped,
Yeah.
and part of what I'm doing in my own headspace over the next year or two before the new show gets here is getting my head into the mind space of, okay, Stargate can be something other than what it was before, which
Yeah.
is a weekly action adventure, 22 episodes a year. A mini series is a different animal. I don't expect a mini series to be 20 episodes.
No.
If it's a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end,
Right.
then uh, 8 to 10
Yeah.
feels like the right kind of scope. So for me, it's kind of like, are we as fans prepared for a different format of storytelling within the Stargate universe?
Yeah, I think it is going to be a difference. I mean, I don't think we can escape that. And again, I have to keep saying, sorry guys, this is an educated guess on my part, but
Sure.
the format of streaming and Amazon in particular, if you look at any of its sci-fi shows, they don't do an alien of the week, monster of the week for the most part. Um, it depending upon what the storyline. I know the boys did it, I think, in season 4, but it didn't work. So what you want to do is look at what's going to happen is that they're probably going to tell one overarching story. And if they're doing what I'm hoping they're going to do, it's setting the stage for several seasons. So it's going to be a set the stage miniseries of here's where we are now,
Yeah.
acknowledging what's happened in the
Not
past.
one and done, right? It's
Right.
setting up a new world.
Exactly. I do know that's the plan. So whatever it is that they do with that story, with how they're going to go forward, that there's going to be the acknowledgement of what's happened in the past. I have no idea what the story is, and I have no idea how they're going to do this, but I would hope that what they would do is have one really deep story arc with deep intro to these characters. Because what that allows us to do as fans and new fans is get to know Stargate, get to understand what's happening in the world right now. Maybe the whole world knows about Stargate now. Let's just say that that's what it is. That would be, I mean, that's a real, when you were talking to Martin, I know he was being cagey about it, but that's one of the ones that one of the fans had asked in your first announcement, like, hey, that would be one of the easiest things to do is, or you said it, Okay, so the world knows about the Stargate. Let's just start there. I mean, that's
Mm.
a great place to start. If you do that, hypothetically, then you can jump right in. You can acknowledge to the existing fans all the stuff that's happened before, all of the intense stuff that happened before that got us to this point, but you can introduce new fans without having to go through the exposition of what happened before. That's a great entry point. So what you want to expect is that they're going to look for that kind of entry
Yeah,
point.
what's the entry point?
What's the entry point? And then at that point, you know, in 8 episodes, it is a mini series. They're going to dive really deeply into one big story arc and give you as much as possible about the characters because they want you to get hooked so that you will do this and demand a second season. And it doesn't take much that I forgot to say this. It doesn't take much with subscriptions with Amazon, Netflix, etc. I mean, executive decisions aside, so let's put
It doesn't
the
take much to get
whims.
another season, you mean?
Yeah, because you need less, you don't need as many viewers as we used to need. So it
Got
used
it.
to be used to be a minimum of 9 million viewers to even get a conversation going, or 4.5 million viewers to get a conversation going. That's not the number we're looking at. I mean, it's just audiences are way too diversified
Yeah,
now
fragmented.
and fragmented. Depending upon how you look at it. It's either delineated or fragmented. There is a much lower bar. However, this is what is radically different is the execs who make those decisions have much more input than they did in the old days. Producers in the old days, and when I say old days, I'm just talking 10, 15 years ago, uh, their job could be made or broken based on the premiere of a show. Nowadays, there are producers and execs who are much more longer careers within Netflix and Amazon, et cetera. And so they're looking, and this is not a bad thing, this is a good thing. They're looking at multitude of variables in this equation. What's working? Is this an audience that they're trying to build? Number one, it is. So that's great. Is this an audience that they have had some success with? Yes, it is, but not with this particular aspect of the genre. So then they're looking at, is this going to fill a gap that we need filled right now in Amazon Creative Studios and in our shows that we are creating and distributing? And then the next one, and this is really crucial, is international, because where the money's made is globally. And Amazon does does not does and does not have the experience globally that Netflix has. Netflix spent years building up its global audience and has an incredible fan base around the world for Netflix itself as a brand. Amazon has not built up that international audience like Netflix has, ironically, even though as an e-commerce company, obviously they have. So they're trying to build that up. If we get a lot of international fans, that will go a long way towards encouraging another season, encouraging a continuation. So shooting in London was probably a very specific decision. Not because we don't love Vancouver, and wouldn't it be great because it was a character in the first Stargate. I was talking with Sam Maggs about that it is a character of its own. And, I hope they have some tongue-in-cheek cameo of a forest in Vancouver. But I am sure that they chose London for a reason and that they need to capture this international audience.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going for cough drop number 3.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're the perfect guest to have on when I'm under the weather because you talk more than I do. That's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Okay. Every single person that knows me is laughing their ass off right now.
No, because
I
we want to talk to you
absolutely,
because of your
I
expertise.
absolutely take
In
it as a
addition,
compliment.
in
I
addition to
know
your
I talk a
fandom.
lot. I know I talk a lot. It's all good.
Well, because you brought up the international thing, let's talk for a minute about the benefit of streaming, giving Stargate fans
Yeah.
what we didn't have back in the day, which is
Oh,
the
yeah.
show goes out globally, and we all get to watch it at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's another, okay. So that's another thing. So, so there's this, man, it's Stargate. This new series is dropping in a really good time because everything that's happening in the business right now is radically different. So you've got studios who are super risk averse. You and I have talked about this a lot.
Right.
And then you've got the other end of the spectrum that is Martin and his group and his production company who are like, hey, let's try something new. and pushed it and came to Amazon with something that Amazon was willing to take a risk on. I know that sounds funny to existing Stargate fans were like, okay, come on, there's not that much risk. But to them, it is. So there is such a radical difference in the international aspect of this based on what I've just said. But there's this thing called day and date. And we're getting away from that, thank God, because what it does, day and date means that you would release it the same day and date, relatively speaking, within 24 hours around the world. I don't know what they're going to do with this. It could go either way. But the great thing about what's happening right now is that international marketing campaigns are so much easier to do now.
Oh, okay.
It is so much easier to get a hold of influencers, to get a hold of people that are really into Stargate in Germany and France. And I mean, even in Japan, it was huge in Japan for a very short time. In Brazil, Argentina of all things. So, all of the international work that I did in the old days was really kind of boots on the ground. So I had Fox and MGM uh literal offices that I got to work with around the world, and they did the hard work, and it was hard work. Now we can work with just online influencers, people who are already there in territory, and get them to get excited about it. It's again, if I was going to do this, I would hope that what Martin does is do a teaser campaign, release some really cool stuff, release pictures of the production design, release music. I mean, the composers, I mean, it's really kind of cool. So I think that internationally, there's just an enormous opportunity here that really could make the difference. Every single solitary studio, and not just studios, but any distributor, any production company knows that the money is not being made domestically. It's being made globally first.
Mm.
Any movie that you look at, Michael, Devil Wears Prada 2, what the anticipated box office is going to be. The combined box office is what they look at. We didn't used to look at combined.
The
We would
global.
look at domestic first and then global. We look at global now. We don't, you'd love to hit a certain number for TV, and TV is different. Streaming is different. Um, Nielsen now includes an entire assessment of streaming and what's considered 7 day after and 7 days after. Um, I think internationally now, depending upon how they release it, could really bolster numbers and views. So how streaming is a little bit different from film and old TV numbers is they look at started watching, finished watching, and just to keep it super basic. So unique viewers could be in our wildest dreams and our best dreams, could be 3 million. I'm going real big there, but finished views are going to be
Okay.
very important. So that's
Yeah.
going to be people who actually finish. And again, this goes back to, do they release everything at once, or are they going to go week by week? That's
And
going to be a really important number.
they promote the big number, right? When I read press
Yeah.
releases around Rings of Power,
Yeah.
it's this many cajillions of people around the world checked out the show. They
That's right.
maybe
And
watched a minute or
checked
two,
out just means that
but
they
they're
watched it. We
behind the
don't know.
scenes, right?
Yeah.
They are really watching those other metrics of
Yeah.
minutes watched in total
Yes.
and who finished
Oh
an
my
episode, who
gosh.
finished a
Yeah.
season, who finished a
Yep.
season within a certain period of time.
Right. And what else were they watching? And again, Nielsen has a pretty broad spectrum of focus groups now that do streaming. So that's great. And they've divvied up quite a bit. But Parrot Analytics does a great job of it as well. And I forget there's another one that do just a phenomenal job. And then Amazon's got an incredibly robust internal consumer insights department. That's the one that David and I worked with Bettina, who ran that for a long time.
Okay. Yeah.
That consumer insights internally, I think if I remember correctly, they've divvied it up by their silos now. So it's by family, sci-fi, etc., which would be great. And that consumer insights division, it's all they do. So they look at target audiences. How are we going to reach them? What marketing campaign is going to be used to reach them? How many people watched? How many minutes watched? They do a lot of that. And they're going to look for what's called comps, which is just comparable shows.
Yep.
So they might compare with Netflix, right? They're going to look first at other streamers. So they're going to look at Netflix. And I think the one that just came out, I think the next, well, it's YouTube. So let's put YouTube aside. Um, YouTube beats all others combined for streaming and YouTube television. But let's put that aside because they
Yeah.
don't really have the distinction. Amazon is, I think, fourth or fifth. Netflix is first in what they got for subscriptions and views. And then I think it's Disney Plus. So what Amazon's consumer insights are going to do is they're going to look at comparable shows that are on those streamers. And they're going to say what worked for them
Mhm.
and comparable sci-fi. And then they're going to look at comparable generational. So they might look at Bridgerton, even though there's no connection, they're trying to get that generation.
Yeah.
um I'd be fascinated as a woman, I'd be fascinated to know if how they're going to market to women for Stargate. um you can ask me back when they do their marketing campaign, and I'll either be really pissed or really happy with it
Their
depending
marketing
upon.
campaign and their casting as well,
Yeah,
right?
I
Rick had a built-in audience that was heavily female.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't have any clue because Bettina's not there anymore, so I don't have any inside track anymore. I'm going to be fascinated to hear um how they're going to go after women, because there's an entire generation of Gen X women who are very dedicated fans of Stargate, and there's an entire millennial dedicated fan base that is female. So, and they're the ones that spend the money. Actually, that whole 26 to 64 spends a lot of money.
Mm.
So we'll see. I'll be interested to see how they do it. Martin's smart enough to know, but
Yeah.
he doesn't, that is above his pay grade. That marketing, I'm assuming he'll have creative input,
Right.
certainly on, is this targeting the right people the right way? But he won't have final decision on those marketing campaigns.
You said they're getting away from day and date for global release.
Well,
Does that mean there's a chance of some kind of staggered release schedule for different territories?
theatrically they are. I don't know what they're doing on streaming.
Theatrically, okay.
Streaming is all over the place. I know for Bridgerton they did day and date. I'm almost positive, or within 24 48 hours. But for the boys they didn't. So I think it's kind of all over the place. And one of the reasons they're doing that is each of the streamers are testing out their global audience. Like Peacock doesn't have a global audience; they're domestic only. So is Hulu. So the problem with that is that when they're doing the distribution deals, um, in each territory, that's going to be one of the major questions. Are you dropping all the episodes at once? Are you doing it first up and then one each week? How do you want to distribute that? What kind of audience does each territory still have for a dedicated Stargate? And how much audience is there for sci-fi? So it may be that they drop at different dates. I do know, I do know that there is, thank God, a radically different approach this time about making sure that international fans are fed. But because I got really
Mm.
tired of saying, I promise we're working on it. I actually got from a fan as a joke a t-shirt that says, I promise. And on the back it says, we're working on it. Because it was literally, I said it all the time about international. And
Restore
I
your
got,
command availability.
oh my God, I got tired of saying it. And I do know that there is radically different approach with this, obviously, because Amazon is global, but that's still, you still have to sell it in territories. So we'll see.
Yeah. Guys, if you have any questions for Jenny, let's have them in the chat here. We'll wrap up in a few minutes. What are you okay as a fan, right? You've given us lots of industry insight as an expert. As a fan who loves science fiction storytelling, what are you excited about? What are you hopeful for from Martin's show?
Honestly, like I'd lie. What I would love to see is something that does tie, like I said, that is an entry point that acknowledges the TV universe. It could even be Destiny crashes on Earth. I don't care, whatever it is. Whatever that entry point is, I hope it's something that acknowledges the TV universe in a really fun way, fun being the optimal. I don't want it in some depressing, like everybody died. Like, just can we acknowledge something in a fun way that is the universe as an entry point,
Yeah, don't
and
bum
that
us out.
don't bum us out. And then that the program is continuing in some new or different way. And I'm assuming that's why they're shooting around the world. And that the reason, and again, that's why I'm kind of jumping to the Stargate is now a known thing around the world, that the program is been exposed, quote unquote. Um, and that there's something different this time around from anything we've done before. That would be really cool to me. That if it's, I would like to, I mean, I hope they still go with the trope of the team, because I think that that was so intrinsic to what worked. So I would love to still see that, to see a team. I would love it to be, in my perfect world, that Amanda's in charge, and
General
she's in
Carter.
charge.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And look, I know that some of this is a long shot, but that would be super cool. And I would love, I knowing Chris, I don't think that's going to happen, but I would love that, Teal'c has organized an entire Jaffa nation and they've got their own thing going and it's a whole government. I just think there'd be some fun stuff to acknowledge, and then we move into a new story. And whatever that new story is, it could be a trope we've seen before. It'd be hard to not hit out of 300 and some odd episodes. It'd be hard to not hit, there's only 11 plots, but
Something.
it'd be
Yeah.
really
Some kind of tie-in.
cool. Yeah, exactly. But it'd be really cool to see something like, maybe there's a Stargate program on 3 planets now, and they're part of an alliance, and we're part of that alliance. I mean, there's just so much that you could do. I would love to see new ships. I would love to see different Stargates that are designed. I mean, okay, so you've got me going. Stargates that were designed differently
Yeah.
on in each way. I'd love to see more ships. I'd love to see more alien races. I would love to see that there is an alliance, that I'd love a big bad. You know, Ball was a great big bad. That was a lot of fun, and it'd be fun to have that kind of big bad that they're all fighting. And it could be like, there's the acknowledgement of this has been going on for 10 years since the last time we saw everybody. And there's been the rise of some race, other alliance, something that threatens not Earth, because that's been done so much, but threatens whatever we're part of.
Yeah.
I think
I
that'd be
like that
fun.
that idea of a galactic alliance of some sort. That's kind of the natural evolution of Earth, sort of gaining the prominence that it did, gaining the technological power that it
Right.
did, the influence across the galaxy in the wake of the fall of the System Lords. That now we're part of something bigger. There's
That's
a
right.
united planets of
And
the
it could
Milky
even
Way.
be that, that we're kind of still looked down on because we kind of relate to the game. Like these other planets that we found that have an
Yeah.
alliance are technologically ahead of us. Like, oh my God, I'm blanking. Uh,
Jack O'Neill.
oh my God, I'm blanking. The race that had all of the technology that was like far ahead, and they ended up having a trial there.
Tolan.
Thank you. Um, wow, that was just a complete blank. It'd be really cool if there were more of that, right? Or just, I mean, I'm going to bring up the four races. The four races would be cool, but I don't think we're revisiting that.
Well,
So
bring back Nareem. Garwin's still game. Bring
I
back
know
Nareem, and he was just
it'd be
hiding out on a
cool.
planet somewhere.
Yeah,
He
that'd be
was
so
keeping a low
cool.
profile.
I would love that. Um, I don't think we're going to see those four races really explored, but something like that would be really cool. Like maybe we've discovered something else about the Stargate that we didn't know before. That would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Modern Alliance
Yeah.
using the Stargate in new and interesting ways.
I've been reading so many, you go down the dark hole on Reddit. I mean, I've been reading so many really cool ideas. Um, I'm excited for anything, as long as there's the acknowledgement of the TV universe, and that canon carries through, and then that it's fun, that it's got humor and it's action adventure. I'd be thrilled. And new ships. I want to see new
And new
ships.
ships. Yeah. Well, Earth's technology has to have evolved. If it's
Yeah,
present day, if the show's present
please,
day,
we
then it's
would
been
hope.
that many years.
Yeah, we would hope it had. Especially, what's funny is, if you think about it, if you take a step back and you think about everything that was written. So Continuum ends, Arc of Truth ends, universe didn't end, but let's say it did. Where where does that leave us actually in storytelling when you think about it? So Continuum leaves open a lot of opportunities and a lot of storytelling. Arc of Truth, that's pretty much closed,
Yeah.
but it's not like the program went away at the end of that. The program continues.
There's a Supergate sitting out there. We now have
Exactly.
allies in a different galaxy.
Exactly. And then you've got Universe with this other story that's being told of multiple things happening with potentially ancients and other things. So if you take a step back and you look at all the things that were happening as of 2012, let's say 2011, and now it's 15 years later, okay, so what would be the natural progression from those different points? And that would be fascinating
Yeah.
because there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. Istil Haas says part of an alliance that would have to be careful about falling into the trope, looking like another federation.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even The
Uh,
Expanse did that, so it'd be hard to not fall into any current or just recent sci-fi show that did that.
yeah, Scott Mercer says need a gray character like Todd or something like that. Begrudgingly working with Ball was great.
Oh, I would
I
love
agree.
that. Yeah, I agree. I think, we talked a lot in this about tropes from SG1, but there are a lot of things that happened in Atlantis that were new ideas, or at least new application of ideas on existing tropes. Sorry, there is a delivery, and apparently he's taking a really long time to deliver, and my dog's pissed. I think the Wraith are so new to us at the time, kind of like having a horror and sci-fi at the same time. That was really cool. It'd be
Yeah.
it'd be really fun to have a gray area character like that. Todd was great.
Yeah, I agree. You could put a Gould on the team for all I care. A Gould who is trying to make the best of it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Jonas's girlfriend in Fallout.
Yeah.
Maybe if given an opportunity would like to create her own empire someday, but for now
hmm hmm
is working with us.
Yep.
Okay, Joey after midnight wants to know, Jenny, are you going on Gate Cruise?
Oh my God. Okay, so everybody's asked me that. If I can, I will, but I'm in the middle of production with a new sci-fi IP, and I'm not sure what my schedule is. So I'm gonna try.
Fair.
I really, really want to.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I got to see how the rest of my year shakes out before I
Yeah,
know if I get to go.
I know. When is it again?
It's the last week of January, 24th to the 31st.
Well, I mean, the timing's good in terms of I'd be in.
Oh, you froze on us.
Yeah, that's my connection. Sorry about that.
Okay, there you're back a little bit.
A little bit. I'll try to keep my eyes open because there's nothing like being frozen in one of those stupid expressions.
Okay, we got you. Any
Oh,
other questions, guys? Any other questions for Jenny? I'm trying to keep up on stuff as the chat's flowing. But thank you for doing this. This is
oh, you
so
bet.
much fun. I mean, the time flies whenever we get
Yeah,
to chat. Um,
it's fun.
and there's
I love
there's
it.
there's so much time left. I mean, Martin has given us the gift of knowing long
Oh,
in
yeah.
advance that the show is coming. So they're writing scripts, they're casting,
Yep.
they're doing that early
Yep.
production design work right now. The last thing we heard
Yep.
was they're looking to start principal photography maybe as early as September,
Maybe
or
in the fall.
sometime in the
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah. And again, I want everybody to take part with the fact that he's being so transparent, and Amazon is supporting that.
Yeah.
Amazon/MGM, they're both supporting that 100%. We've never had that. Ever, ever, ever. So this is a huge positive green flag. Everybody get behind it.
I take
Positive
that as a huge
reinforcement.
positive. Yeah, as silent
Yeah,
as MGM was for a couple
oh
3 years,
my
and as much grief as I
God.
gave them, just
Yeah.
throw us a bone when they
I
finally
mean,
made the announcement. Yeah,
yeah. This is the best possible of all worlds, that you have Amazon as a big studio, creative studios, MGM within that, and then Martin's within that. And all of them are on the same page when it comes to being transparent with the fans as much as they can. They're not I think the last thing I would say is positive reinforcement from us is going to be huge.
Okay.
Amazon, like I said, consumer insights, they pay a lot of attention to that. And then the other side of that though is don't expect everything to be shared because they're going to want to keep some secrets. They're going to want to keep some stuff that's a surprise. They're going to want to keep some stuff that they don't show you. I can guarantee you they're not going to want to show you the Stargate. They might show you like one little bit of the Stargate,
Yeah.
but don't we want to be surprised the pilot when we watch it? Don't we want to go, oh my God, that's amazing? And they might give us some background about it. And I don't know, maybe Martin would be really excited. I mean, knowing him, he'd love to share it. But I think we need to be really patient about what they're willing to share. They're gonna want to keep some secrets close to the chest. They're gonna want to keep what is that story arc? I mean, we can when they start casting, we're all going to be able to guess to a certain degree what's going on. And we're going to start hearing about who's going to be cameos or not from the TV universe. And we can start guessing. But don't you want to keep some of
Oh, and
it
we
be a
will.
mystery? Yeah, we'll be guessing. But don't we want to keep some of that be a mystery? Don't you want to be able to go in and have that anticipation of that old anticipation of, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this? I would love to have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I would love that. Again, as we talked about, I think last week, as much as Gay World has been involved in spoiler reporting over the years, I'm really excited to see this show, knowing as little about it as possible.
Yeah.
We're gonna cover it. We're gonna speculate, right?
Yes.
We're gonna know who the actors are. We might get their
Okay.
character names. We're gonna
Right.
start to guess about, what is this a kind of a typical team makeup
Mm-hmm.
where there's the scientist and
Right,
the
right,
the
right.
heavy. We're gonna do all that. It's gonna be fun.
It's going to be a blast. I think Gate World and Dial the Gate kind of keep keep the anchor going, keep the steady going. Everybody else around it, we can do all of the talking and speculation and crazy things that we want. But the beauty of you guys is that you really keep it going and keep it steady. And that's, I think, why Martin is relying on you guys, is that he knows that you're not going to go crazy. Not, I love the crazy too. I mean, I'll go through a speculative podcast and it's a blast, but you guys keep to here's the truth. This is what we know, like we just talked about. Here's what we know for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, everything else is an educated guess.
Yep. Yep, for sure.
And he depends on that. He respects it.
Hannah HK says to tell you that she loves the blue hair,
Thank you very much.
which, yeah, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people after agree. Your blue hair
Oh,
is
well, thank you.
awesome.
Thanks.
Let
Hey,
me
when you go white, you gotta have some fun.
do something creative. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. Let me ask you this: from my seat doing reporting on this show that doesn't exist yet, and the sort of proximity that I have to PR and marketing over the years,
Yeah.
I've been struck by the fact that, okay, Amazon did this big announcement. They brought David and I in to participate in the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
It went up on Prime Video's YouTube channel, over 1 million views. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also watching Prime Video's normal PR channels.
Yeah.
And so there was this big blast of coverage in digital media, and then it was
Yeah.
over. And I didn't even see the
Yeah.
press release show up on the Prime Video press site.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's only been so much marketing at this point. There was like an announcement, but it was even the announcement itself was sort of isolated. And
Yeah.
like the proper Prime Video PR machine has not even
It
put
won't.
Stargate on the list yet.
No, no, it won't because a couple of things have to happen for corporate communications. That's what it's called.
Okay.
At any studio or production company, you've got your different layers. Digital and social is in essence to find the pulse of the fans. So that's always going to be first. You're always going to be out very, very early on that. Some more than others. Some are more transparent than others, right? And willing to do that. And in this case, we're all very happy that Amazon and MGM were willing to do that. And Martin led that uh, led that fight to do that. Anything you see right now is going to be 100% generated for existing fans. It's way too early, a year and a half before something comes out, to do corporate communication PR or do even a marketing campaign to get sci-fi fans that don't know about Stargate. Everything right now is going to be focused on existing fans. That's just
Okay.
standard practice, and that's a good practice. While that may be an old school step, it works for a reason, and that anybody who doesn't know about Stargate isn't going to have sustained interest for a year and a half.
Yeah.
They're going
That
to
makes
say,
sense.
why isn't it here yet? I'm bored, whatever it is. Again, that's why, it'd be great if they did a prequel comic, if they did something that was some sort of context, that would be great. I doubt they're going to spend money on that. They have to see proof of concept first. It's a bit of a chicken and the egg. They're going to probably, and when I say they, I mean Amazon, MGM, Martin, as a whole, are going to spend more time doing social and digital PR and marketing to existing fan base. I would say probably,
You're frozen.
oh
You're
shoot,
there. You're
sorry,
back now.
sorry.
No, that was just the
Earliest,
perfect pregnant pause. You said, "I
I
think,
know, right?
I think probably,
Then my eyes go up.
probably what?
The earliest we can expect the first episode is going to be late summer next year, and that would be best case
That'd be
scenario.
amazing. Yeah, absolutely
I
best
but
case.
that's best case scenario. Um, I think what you'd see then, you back up from there, right? That's when you go, okay, depending upon if they're going to drop all 8 episodes, 10 episodes, or if they're going to do one a week, you back up from there a certain amount for the window for your marketing campaign. So you won't see a general push. You won't even probably see a media alert from corporate communications on the Amazon or MGM side until I would say minimum 6 weeks prior to whatever they're going to do, whether it's a binge drop or whatever.
Even for a wider announcement that just says, "Hey, we've greenlit a new show. It's in production now.
Well,
Cameras
that
are
was in
rolling."
no, that was in Variety and Hollywood Reporter, but they're not going to do a general public PR announcement. I mean, that was in quite a bit in November and December, and then the one you did with Martin a month ago, Deadline, I think, picked it up. So industry wide, they've already made that announcement. That's pretty standard because you want your industry to know about it. You want to get people that are in the industry excited about it because you're looking for VFX, you're looking for
Yeah.
cast, so that's you want agents to go tell their actors, hey, there's this new show. So that kind of PR has been out there and has quite a few articles about it. Um, I would say general public is going to go digital and social first. So the earliest you would see that is 3 months prior. I don't think that they would do more, mainly because you don't have enough money guaranteed in a marketing budget for this to sustain a 6 month campaign. I may be wrong. They may be betting on this, and I will be so happy to be wrong that they're going to put more money into that marketing campaign.
Yeah.
But it is a new series, it is a new
Yeah.
show, and they are taking a risk that some other studios are not taking right now. So I give them credit. I just don't know how big that budget's going to be.
Yeah. And I understand that they're. I mean, one of the challenges that you face in marketing is sometimes you only get one bite at the apple. You get one shot to grab
Yes.
somebody if they're not part of
I
the existing
hope
fan
that's
base
not it.
already. So you
Yeah.
you don't necessarily want to do your splash 12 months
Right.
out and have them forget about it and not have another
No, and
chance
you
to go back
can't.
at them.
What I will say is different is the fact that they have Martin going out now so early, a year and a half before something's going to happen, is fantastic because that means they are willing to spend some
Yeah.
money and spend some time courting and wooing us, the existing fan base. That is fantastic news. That does not happen a lot. It usually only happens with something like A Hobbit, Ring of Power, etc., Star Wars. Huge franchises. The fact that Amazon is doing that means that they are looking at Stargate as a worthwhile franchise to take a risk on and to court the existing fan base. That's great news. They'll spend some money on that. The most amount of PR and marketing you're going to see is towards that existing fan base right now. And then it's just going to depend on when they want to go after the sci-fi, that next concentric
Yeah.
circle out is that sci-fi audience. And where are they going to advertise for that? I'll be fascinated to see where do they go to find that audience?
Well, if it was up to you, when does the merch start? Joey After Midnight says, Amazon, get your grubby hands
Oh yeah.
on the merch ahead of this.
Honestly, I would have started already because with an existing they don't have anything that's a design, so you can't do that yet.
Yeah.
Let me back up. I wouldn't have started already. I would start the minute that they have an existing title treatment and they have an existing look and feel for the key art. The minute they have that, I want a t-shirt, I want a poster, I
Yeah,
want a
you can at
sticker.
least start doing those.
I, but I will say NGM licensing and merchandising and consumer products and Fox Consumer Products were amazing. I found working with them to be better than any of the other studios in that area, except obviously Disney. Um, but even Disney, like Disney identifies the franchises it's going to do, and then it just pours a shit ton of money into that one franchise. There are a lot of things, like just about everything it acquired from Fox, it doesn't spend money on. So
Mm.
MGM and Amazon, I don't know Amazon's licensing and merchandising. I don't know. You
Mm.
think as an e-commerce company that consumer products would be
Yeah.
a big deal, but I don't know. I know their consumer insights, like I said, did a lot of work in that area. But let's take a step back. Let's look at boys merch, Invincibles merch, Rings of Power merch. How much advertising have you seen for that? I'm a diehard fan for all three of those shows. I was not targeted, and trust me, I sign up for everything.
Yeah.
I was not targeted for
I haven't
merch.
been the targeted for any of that campaign.
No,
If
and
there's
it might have
marketing
been
money
that
behind
they
it.
look, boys, my age was a definitive age group for the boys, but they obviously went after Gen Z and millennials a lot, which makes sense. We've got deeper pockets, but there's a bigger audience there. So who knows? It might have been, and I'd love to hear from people in the audience if they were targeted, if they saw merch from the boys, if it was advertised, or Rings of Power, um, or even the Invincibles. Even at the Comic Cons, I have not seen much. Like New York Comic Con
Mm.
is hardcore merch. It's like a shopping mall at New York Comic Con.
Okay.
The boys had something through third party vendors, but not through Amazon's. And like through Audible. It's like, okay,
Okay.
but that doesn't make sense. So I don't know. I mean, I would hope that they would do something through you guys. That would be amazing.
That'd be
Have you
great. Yeah.
guys licensed? So we're sending out that message. We're manifesting that message that let's have merch through Gate World and Dial the Gate, because we would all buy it with new. If we had the new key art like we did before, I mean, that was we made money on that. As much as people hated Origins,
Oh,
we made money on the posters
yeah, because
and
you did
the
posters and
yeah, we did posters and
t-shirts.
stickers and pins and t-shirts, and we made money on that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've speculated that probably what's happening right now is they got to be signing licensees at least.
Oh, I don't know.
Do you
I
think it's
mean,
too early for that? Just because they don't
I think
necessarily have a
no, no, I
package to take to a licensee and say this is what it's going to
yeah.
be.
Well, so the license the Toys and License Expo just happened. I should ask my friends. I didn't even think about it. I should have done that before this podcast. Sorry.
We'll do it next time.
Um, I it could go two ways. They could already be out to licensees that have been successful in the past, that MGM had and Fox had, that were big enough, right? They're not going to
Yeah.
go after small
Yeah.
licensees. But there were some bigger ones that were very successful for them. Um,
And there's got to be licensed t-shirts still out there. Like Trevco's got to still be selling Stargate licensed shirts.
I probably, um, I don't usually buy through them, so I can't say that I bought through them. Um, I will say to any fans that are currently doing Stargate, be prepared that they are going to probably start, unfortunately, uh, shutting down or being more hardcore about who's using what for Stargate. Just because that tends to be the cycle. In terms of, unless you're an official licensee, you shouldn't be out there.
So okay, so when the licensing starts to ramp up,
Yeah.
at least increases the likelihood of more cease and desist letters to fans who
It's
are
it's in
selling
this
stuff on
cycles.
Etsy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with the licensees that I worked with and non-licensees that I've worked with over the years, the cycle was almost always the minute it came back into the attention of licensing and merchandising and consumer products is when those C&D letters went out. And it's a cycle, right? you lay low for a while, and then you come back up when they stop caring. And honestly, they're going to care during that windowing of when they start paying attention to it. I don't know, knowing Amazon's current history on consumer products of existing franchises, MGM's the first studio they bought, right? So you look at Netflix wanted to buy Warner Brothers because they wanted to get a studio, they wanted to get a library. So this was the first thing that Amazon ever bought like that. I don't know that I've seen, and I'd be really fascinated to go look now because now you've totally piqued my interest. Is I want to go look and see of the MGM franchises or the things that MGM owned, what have they licensed out for consumer products? And when did they start before a show or a movie
Yeah.
that they've done that's an MGM property? I'm going to be fascinated to see.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we got to have you back sometime in the next 18 months before the new show comes on. We'll talk again
We'll
and
talk
talk more
again.
about merch.
Well,
Okay.
this is always so much fun. I absolutely adore, obviously, talking about Stargate and talking about the business. I love the business. So thank
Your
you so
your
much for
energy is
having me.
infectious. So thank you. People
Oh,
are commenting in the chat about how you clearly love what you do, and it's so fun. I'm gonna give
um,
Raj Luthra, who's one of our moderators, I'm gonna give him the last question.
hi, Rush.
This is a open field for speculation about Amazon's long-term strategy. And again, knowing all of this depends on how well the first show does. Do you think it's possible to revive SG1, SGA, and SGU
Hmm.
in animated form and have them connect to the new thing?
Okay, that's a great question. So, knowing that animation has made a huge comeback in terms of being viewed as a quote unquote legitimate genre for adults,
Yeah,
and I say that with massive air quotes because all of us that are nerds have
I've
been
always
yelling
loved
that.
it. Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
we
we've
were
been yelling
watching
that
Clone
for
Wars 20 years ago.
exactly. Um, I think, uh, unfortunately, Raj, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say it depends. If I was doing it, I would say you do a bridge series in between season 1 and season 2 in animation. Because what you could do is you could give context about what happened. So everything we just talked about with SG1, with the Supergate, with Stargate Atlantis landing in San Francisco, with what Joe had originally written for the movie that was going to be the ending of Stargate Atlantis for Universe, there's animation is cheaper, and you could do a phenomenal contextual. Here's what happened before season 1 of the new show, and let's tie these threads together. And you could actually do it in one animation. And you could do it in an hour and a half, 2 hour animation. You could cut that into a bridge season between 1 and 2. Amazon is somewhat hesitant. You guys can go look it up in some of the research. Obviously, with the Invincibles, they've had huge success. They've had some really good success with others, but they are also looking around. One Piece, unfortunately, season 2 did not do well on Netflix in terms of gaining them more subscribers.
Hmm.
So while season 2 was beautiful and it's based on an anime manga and it is uh different, I know I'm mixing apples and oranges. Amazon looks at that and they look at what has been successful. So what they're going to look at is it worth it to take a risk on a sci-fi animation? And is it worth it for us to revisit for this particular audience that they would commit to an animation? And those are huge questions. And that's why I say it's going to depend on their consumer insights, and it is going to depend on what their comps are that they're looking at other streamers and what they're willing to go into, and what we as an audience, as the existing fan base, demand and ask for. And if we say, hey, we would love to see an animation that ties up these threads, and we say that a lot, they might pay attention to that.
Yeah.
But
But that's not the end of the equation. It's not
it
just,
is,
do fans want more Stargate? Well, yes,
yeah, I mean, that's right. We're given what
because
they're looking for
it's
is,
a different format.
do new fans want more Stargate? That's going to be
Yeah.
the key question. They know we are going to want more Stargate. Even if we hate the show, most of us are still going to say, okay, but don't go away. We didn't love it, but please give us more. What they're going to be looking at, and unfortunately, what the key is going to be, what the pivotal key is going to be, is do new fans want more? And at that point would be the decisions. Most decisions about animation for an existing franchise are made either from scratch, like could have been that we got an animation instead of Martin Garrow's live action. Once we were into live action and we're doing a franchise, they're not going to decide about an animation until we're a couple of seasons in.
Yeah.
Animation and most of the studios' heads, and let's be honest, Amazon and Netflix are now studios, whether they want to be considered traditional or not. They are. They've been around for 20 years. So as studios, uh, is going to be, is there an establishment here of a new audience that would ask for animation? And does animation make sense as a supplemental? Supplemental materials are comics, books, audio dramas,
For an
and
ongoing live action
vertical
franchise.
dramas. Yeah, exactly. And animation, once a franchise has started in a live action direction, is usually considered, do we want to do this as a supplemental? Do we want to fill in some gaps? Do we want to tell an additional
Interesting.
story?
Which is not the
Uh,
Firefly equation, right? The Firefly
no.
animated revival is not an
Well, that would have been
add-on
ours.
or an
No, but
instead
see,
of.
that would have been, no, but that's the perfect example. If they hadn't gone with Martin Garrow, the only option for an animation would be like the Firefly example, is that the only way we're going to continue this is via animation.
Yeah.
So if it's an old franchise, uh, let's say Buffy didn't get canceled, and what Sarah Michelle Gellar was looking to do was animation instead, like Firefly. Instead of a live action, you're going with animation. If you go with live action, however, for the revival of this franchise, you're not going to jump into animation right away. It's just, it doesn't, there's not a cost efficiency there.
Yeah. I'm scrolling back up to
Much
try
as
and
I'd love to
find.
see animation, I would love to see an animation
Yeah,
done right.
but it makes
We're
sense, right?
just
You start to think about
not.
it as supplemental material. It's like CBS Paramount did Short Tracks, and that was live
Mhm,
action, but it was supplemental
mhm,
material in between seasons.
exactly. And that there's a lot to be said for supplemental materials for franchises. And they love to talk about those possibilities, but they have to be cost efficient. So these could be animated shorts. That could work for sure. Animated shorts, it can be an 8 to 10 minute can be as cheap as 120,000. That's cost efficient.
Yeah. All right, guys, you've hung out with us. Oh man, we're going on 2.5 hours. Uh,
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's, yeah. Okay.
Thank you for hanging out with us today
On a Friday.
on a Friday. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to hang out and talk Stargate with me and Jenny. We appreciate it. Jenny, thank you so much for being here. I consider
Absolutely.
it a great gift.
Oh, thank you.
Not
It's an
just
honor. It really is an honor to be on with Gate World Dial the Gate. It's an honor. I appreciate that you guys asked me back.
well, yeah, not just because of your insights, but because of your friendship and your love for
Uh,
Stargate.
Love you
This is what
guys.
we're doing.
It's
We're celebrating Stargate here.
yeah,
26, 7. Well, let's see. For Gate World, it's 26 years later. For
20.
Stargate, it's geez, next year is SG1's 30th.
Well, I mean, I've known you and David for over 20 years. Let's just go there.
Yeah.
That's just
Let's just
crazy.
stay with over 20.
Yeah. It's
From
20
now
plus
on, it's just
20
over 20.
something. I love
40
that.
years from now, it'll be
Also, I do want to say one thing to everybody that's the fans and anybody that rewatches this. I am so thankful for this fandom. It is, I don't know if you guys know this, but this Stargate fandom is why I have the career I have. So I am unbelievably thankful to the huge fandom, to the diehard fandom, to the amazing friends that I've made. And I cannot even thank you guys enough. And that's
well,
my dog talking in the background.
yeah. He's always welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to our moderators. Raj Luthra is here. Hellcats I saw earlier. Yeah, Hellcats is here. I think it's just you two guys right now. But thank you for being here and helping us with the chat. Thank you, everybody, for joining us live. A special thanks to our channel members who help keep the lights on around Gate World. I appreciate you so much. It does make a difference, especially because let me tell you what's going on now with Gate World. This is just a little aside. I had a really busy April doing other things, doing real life. Let's just call it real life. Um, And so I haven't been publishing as much on Gateworld or on our YouTube channel. And I came back last week and discovered Gateworld has been delisted from Google, which is, as you can imagine,
What?
a lot of our traffic comes
Wait,
from Google. Uh,
just because you had, a real life and were off for a
no,
month?
I just didn't notice that it had happened at the end of March.
Oh,
And it's
jeez.
it's just a weird little it's just a weird little technical glitch with
Yeah.
the back end of the Google Search Console, and my
Yeah.
sitemap had a URL that was no longer resolving. So,
Oh,
and of
and
course,
so
when you
they,
figure it out, it takes
yep.
forever to fix. So I fixed it, and
Mm-hmm.
now it could be another month before Gateworld starts showing up in your search results again.
Jeez.
So my traffic has been in the toilet, and
So everybody, you
I
got to
don't
go
know
talk
when
about
it's going to come
Gateworld.
back.
You got to go talk about Gateworld because everybody that does that, everybody that goes and searches for Gateworld, just like
Yeah,
a couple
share it.
times a day,
We
just go
say,
in.
yeah, if you like the video, share it with a Stargate loving friend. It
Yep.
matters. It really does. But it'll be worked out. It'll work itself out. It's
I
fine. I'm
hope
not
so.
worried. But yeah, it does mean that my advertising paycheck is going to be lean for a couple of months,
Ugh,
which is fine. So all this to say,
that's rough.
channel members, you guys really do matter.
Hmm.
And I've been thrilled. David put out a call for his new Patreon for Dial the Gate, and I've been thrilled to see the
Yeah.
outpouring of fan support for Dial the Gate.
It was amazing.
Check that out as well.
Yeah.
Dial the Gate on Patreon, as well as
Yep.
I've set up a Patreon, but I've never launched it.
No, you should do a Substack, Darren, because you
A
love to
Substack.
write. Yeah, do a Substack because the thing with Substack is it's 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 geared for people who love to write and talk about the things that they
Yeah.
love. And there is a very substantial sci-fi fantasy, both TV and reading group on there. And
Okay.
I think you'd have fun because it's essay based.
Right.
I mean, honestly, you can do whatever you want as long as you're consistent. But I follow a couple that are sci-fi based, and I follow a lot that are industry based. They write 500 word essay. That's it, and they do a couple of those a week. That's it. So
Yeah.
they bank them and then they just release them on Substack and you build a community. And we're doing it with SG and it's fantastic. So,
That's cool. I'll have to take
yeah.
a look. Problem is, I also have a website that I have to write for on a weekly basis.
But you can do both. No, you use the same thing. What you do is you release it on Substack a couple of days early and you drive to your website.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to
Then
hire you to help me figure this out.
you don't have to double. Now I'll just do it for free. You don't have to double your work.
Yeah. I'm all about optimizing workflow right now.
Yep.
I'm just
Yep.
getting too old for this.
I know.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Jenny. We'll see you back here. For those of you who are regulars here, I don't have any new names to add to our calendar coming up, but we are going to have, if my voice holds out and I don't have to cancel the stream because I got sick again, if my voice holds out, we're going to have Lawrence Moroney here next Friday. Talk about
That's awesome.
Stargate AI, talk about his work with Universe, talk about his work with Stargate AI on the Companion. That'll be here next Friday at same time, same place. Lauren,
Oh,
I'm
I'm gonna
also,
watch. I'll comment on it because I loved
yeah,
working with Lawrence
yeah,
on
yeah.
that
Come and
stuff. That
comment.
was fun.
Come in the
Yeah,
chat.
yeah, yeah.
He also wrote the SGU season 3 fanfic
Yep,
series,
yep.
which I still see people reference. I still see
Oh,
people
I
like,
thought he
I've
did a
seen
great
people who
job.
thought it was like the writers of the show wrote a whole third
Hmm.
season and it never got
Yeah,
greenlit.
yeah,
They're apparently so well received. So I want to talk to him about his, because they're written. It's a fanfic series written in a teleplay format.
yeah.
So I
I
want to
think
talk
he
to him
did a
about
good.
that
I
too.
loved it. I thought he. You know what though? What's really interesting? I just thought of this when we had because I was working for the Companion then. When we had him on with Brad, I don't think we ever asked if Brad read it. If he read Lawrence's season 3
I would be
teleplay.
shocked
I know.
because
Why didn't we ask that question?
Brad and the writers tend
That's
to stay very, very far away from fanfic, right?
Yeah, but it was Lawrence, and Brad and Lawrence are friends.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask Brad. I
That's a
want to
good
know.
question.
I want to know.
I
Did
would
you
like to know the
read?
answer to that.
It'll be a good question.
Good. Well, that'll be next week if my voice holds out.
Okay.
Guys, thanks again for hanging out. Thank you, Jenny.
You
As
bet.
always, we'll see you again. And we'll see you back here next week, everybody else, for more Stargate. Thanks.